Your profile is certainly very impressive. Done exceptionally well in all the assessments. It's combat space training. We have something highly classified nature to show you.
Major, details of the legal project.
Okay, let's try this again. Chat, can you hear me? Am I coming through clearly? Am I a good volume right now? Please let me know if I am, and if I'm not as well, I guess also let me know. But I'm just talking in a continuous stream here to create a mic check for everyone. And once, yes, and it's sounding good. Okay, that's really good to hear. Oh my god, guys, I was having like an actual nervous breakdown about this. Like, it's like, okay, you don't need the details, it's okay. I'm gonna grab a coffee, we're gonna start in 2 minutes. I'll see you all very soon. Wah. hello. Hi and welcome. Welcome everyone to the Liberal Slop stream. Hi and hello and welcome to Valerie Valkyrie and Nini161, Volpix989, Nadia Yvette, Jenny Azoth, Middle Earth Marxist, Garlo Mango. That's a new one, I think, or maybe not, but great username either way. Already said Volpix989, but hello again to Volpix989. Hello to Valerie the Lovely Italian, and May Wolf Sky, and Ro the Fair Thing Lion, and... is there anyone else? XX Killala Kitty XX, and... Sharp Object, welcome to the stream. Did I already say Jenny Azoth? I must have done. I think so. Jenny Azoth, hello, welcome to the stream. Everyone, I think, now has been welcomed. Welcome once again, everyone. It's lovely to have you all here. Thank you for coming to the stream. It's Liberal Slop. You know what the deal is with Liberal Slop by now. If you don't, we look at liberal op-eds. Slop-eds, some are calling them. And we, the slop heads, as no one is calling us, I hope. I really hope, because it feels quite mean, actually. We look at the media and what is it trying to achieve? What's going on with it? Does it know things? Let's find out. I'm changing the white balance of my camera right now, and I'm trying to pretend that it's not happening, but it is happening. So we may as well all just embrace it, really. Is my audio sounding good now, by the way? I just wanted to check in about that again, since we've had simply so much controversy. Middle Earth Marxist says, we prefer to be called sloppies, and I think this is a case where I, as supreme leader of the stream, can delegate to democracy if I see fit. This seems like a member democracy issue, so chat, sloppies? You tell me, is that what everyone on the stream is called? Maybe. I'm open to it, that's fine by me. I'm Sophie, I know who I am. So, we're going to look at some slop. But first, I just wrote an article today, and I'd like to chat with you all about it. So, I'm kind of just going to dive straight into that, to be honest. I can close that window and open this. Right. So, it's called Runner 101. And it's subtitled, May the Revolution Make Teachers and Students of Us All. Because the point of this one is to expand on more organizing ideas that I've encountered that I think are good and worthwhile. So I recently released a video I hope people have seen, and again, I'm prompting people for discussion here because I want us to be able to chat about stuff. That's the point of having a chat, surely. I made a video recently. It was about trans organizing. It was about how I think that trans people in the UK especially, but all over, need to use assemblies as a model to create community structures that will protect the most precarious from harm, and also create democratic power for trans people to be able to organize as a political bloc. And then I wrote this article, Trans Organizing the Assembly Model, and just outlined very specifically some details to do with the assembly model, just to try to... this one was mostly kind of like a copying down. This was kind of adding stuff in from the video into a text format, because I know that some people don't fuck with YouTube videos, and that's completely fair enough. So when I think that the information is really, really important and I want to get it across to people, I don't necessarily just want it to be a YouTube video. And following on from that, I was doing some planning for Hub training sessions. If people watch me on Red Planet, they know that I'm volunteering at the Harm Reduction Hub, and we train volunteers and get them all up to a sort of similar level of training for who they'll encounter in the hub and how to interact with people and what kind of things are necessary in the hub, what the hub is for, some political education, some practical skills training. And in doing that, I was just really struck by how I hadn't mentioned training and skill sharing and upskilling at all in my other organizing writing so far. So, run a 101. Since I got a telescope last year, I've been making trips to darker spots within and around London, usually the local park, in order to do astrophotography. Yes, I do know it's rained every day so far this year in Britain. Yes, I am going insane. As I've learned how to use the telescope better, to see more and capture more in pictures, I've also had more friends come along, as well as strangers who wandered up to our group out of curiosity. The more times you teach people, different people, how to use a telescope, the more the information finds a natural emergent flow. You know which questions people are likely to ask and when. You didn't set out to make a lesson plan per se, but you start to have a loose script nonetheless. I bring this up because I think there's a certain aura we project onto teachers or onto the act of teaching that we sometimes don't fully lose until we teach others. Certainly, state-approved curricula have much higher levels of standardization and regulation than things we just teach our mates. And the act of sitting down to intentionally plan a lesson is more intentional work, but teaching can take many different forms. Part of my job as a public figure has been as a teacher. As an aside chat, I think I sometimes refer to the stream as class. I'm pretty explicit about this. In that people come to my writing often to learn. I have also been teaching in an organizing capacity. Here I'm going to talk more about lessons with a teacher in a class and a lesson plan and a run time, but it is the concept of teaching I'm trying to promote, specifically the model we call upskilling or skill sharing in an organizing context. Recently, I've done a bit of writing on organizing with very specific direct suggestions, and that links back to the assembly model there. While I'm not trying to build a holistic model of absolutely all the organizing I think should happen, it hit me today how important upskilling is and how absent it is from my other writing. In one community that I organize in, running a 101 has become a very common bit of vocabulary. This is because our org has a basic curriculum, 101 sessions, for new volunteers, as well as optional classes, usually described as 201s because they're for more advanced topics, for people who want specifically to learn about something not covered in the original sessions. The concept of a 101, or a 201 for that matter, is very useful to the organizing context because it allows us to directly tackle issues of low capacity. B-Rat here says, I've always been confused by the 101, 201, etc. model of class labeling. We don't use it in my part of Europe. We don't use it in Britain either. One of our head volunteers is American, and I think it's mostly migrated across from there. My understanding is that they represent different years or different grades, and so the idea of calling something 101 versus 201 is like if you've already been through one entire round of training, then that's like the second year thing. But it is really only 101s I actually want to talk about here, to be honest. Which hopefully we'll understand the phrase as meaning the first class in something, an introductory session. Okay, I'm going to carry on. It's very useful in the organizing context because it allows us to directly tackle issues of low capacity. Where there are skills that people need in order to put in hours to help the goals of the org, it can happen faster with more people. Being in communities where people share a basic confidence that they can do a lot of the same things or can quickly learn to do things they can't is wonderful, and it's a little hard to enumerate all the benefits. I'll try anyway. 1. It is the natural solution to skill bottlenecks. Often in a group, one person is the only person who can do something, and therefore it gets only done by them, often slowly and with some attached stress. If that person teaches others to do it, the org is more capable. 2. It's just very human. As a collective, we are constantly teaching ourselves, and the kind of variety that we get in learning to do more different things is what our big adaptable brains love, actually. Big win for neuron activation. 3. It doesn't diminish anyone's expertise or strengths. I hope we've all read The Tyranny of Structurelessness. I should probably link that there. Chat, have you read The Tyranny of Structurelessness? I nearly said struncturelessness. The Tyranny of Struncturelessness. The Tyranny of Scrunkliness. Sorry. Chat, do you know what I'm on about at all? I should add in a link there to The Tyranny of Structurelessness. And for those who are watching who don't know, The Tyranny of Structurelessness is an essay about how when you get a bit too anarchist and refuse to even give anyone roles in your org, social dynamics reign supreme, and it leads to complete disaster where no one really knows what responsibility anyone should have for anything, and everything is the fault of the people who are just the least liked, really. I'll link it I'll go back and edit and I'll link it. It's okay if someone is really good at comms and is going to be the comms officer of an org because they have a talent for it. It's not okay if nobody can send external emails when that person is sick. Joe Freeman, tyranny. I think that's the right one. Yes, thanks for the link. Okay. I'll go edit that in a minute. 4. Scalability. Fractal growth time, baby. Pardon me. That's a bit gross. Sorry. I got very anxious with the sound problems we were having. I'll carry on with the article. Sorry. An org that can train people is immediately offering knowledge and skills to people, which is appealing at the outset. Plus, in a culture of upskilling, you can train more people. You can train more people to be trainers, and more people broadly feel confident to take on responsibilities like teaching. This means the org can generate more competent members proportional to how many members it already has, which hopefully we can see why that's an exciting claim. Obviously, some things do require intensive or long-term training. Nobody is going to become a world-class server admin or for a fully encrypted private org network overnight, for example. These are still ultimately vulnerabilities. If you haven't heard of the bus factor, it's a popular term in the tech sector, and probably others, but I know it from programming, for the number of people who would have to get hit by a bus for your team to be unable to function. There are a lot of orgs with a single-digit bus factor who could be in a much more stable position, and I would argue should be. Compared to an office worker, not officer worker, office worker who might get hit by a bus, we have to remember that activists may be physically incapacitated, but may also be arrested, may experience life complications in a way that eats into volunteer time, in a way it wouldn't into work, or, as we're all constantly highlighting, may simply burn out. Burnout happens most often when an org has a bus factor of 1, and because that one person has not been able to delegate successfully. It is not the things that only this person that can do that are the problem, that are the reason for their burnout, but the things that they are doing that other people could be doing instead. If we want to protect against burnout, those things must be delegated, and in some cases that means thinking ahead and sharing skills. As for specialist skills, it is better in the long term if there are more people who can do the highly technical skills that take a long time to learn. Nurturing a culture of upskilling is vital to decentralized or polycephalous or leaderful organizing. In order to maximally benefit from everyone's abilities, a group should train everyone in it to be basically competent at the things that everyone needs to do. In every example of successful polycephalous organizing I see, experience, hear, or read about, people teach each other how to do things, and this makes the collective significantly stronger. It also feels worth mentioning reading groups here, but I would say that I am a bookish anarchist, and reading groups are what we consume to stay warm throughout the winter. For the practical side of theoretical knowledge sharing, which is more obscure than that of skills sharing, the more politically educated people in an org become, the more informed they feel taking part in its democratic structure. To make your org healthier and stronger, don't be the only one who can do that thing. Teach others to do it and share the responsibility for it. Runner 101. And that's my article. Thanks for listening, everyone. Do you have any thoughts? Hopefully, if there's anyone with organizing experience, this will resonate. Oh my goodness, Madeline Pendleton raiding with a party of 240 people. Oh my goodness, hey Mule. Oh shit, this is so many people. I just finished reading this article. You all, okay. Hi everyone, I'm Sophie. I'm Sophie from Mars. If you know DJ Mule, which I know that you do because you are often raiding into his streams, I am his co-host on Red Planet. Red Planet is a weekly show on Sundays, 8 p.m. UK time, where we chat about the revolution, basically, how people should, what we gotta do, what is to be done, some would say. Sometimes we interview activists and organizers about what they do and how other people can join in or do it themselves. And here on my stream, I tend to look at liberal slop. This is the liberal slop stream. And we just look at like op-eds from the Atlantic, columns from the Economist, from the Financial Times, from the Guardian, from the New Statesman, and yeah, welcome in everyone. It's lovely to have you here. That's what we're going to be doing today. I was actually just reading a piece of my writing before we get into all the slop that was about practical aspects of organizing. So I'm going to show it again, and I'm going to link it in chat if people are interested in it. You can go read it. It's called Run a 101, and basically the point of it, I'm going to link it now. There you go. The point of it is that upskilling and skill sharing are really important in organizing contexts, and just practicing the skill of like teaching others and being ready to learn from others is really important and helps everyone in a ton of different ways. So everyone should check that out. Right. I'm a little bit flustered. There's a lot more viewers than I've had in a long time. It's lovely that you're all here. Hello and welcome. And please follow Red Planet, and please follow DJ Mule if you don't already. And we're going to look at several different pieces from, let's see, the Atlantic, the Economist, the New York Times today. Although it will wind up being a little bit of an Atlantic fest towards the end. I just need to make one minor edit to the post that I just found while I was reading it before, and then I'll be like properly hosting the stream. Oof, sorry everyone. I feel a bit embarrassed about that, but I noticed that I had missed out a crucial link when I was going through before. Also, every time that Madeline Pendleton raids DJ Mule, I say, Madeline Pendleton, come on Red Planet. So I'm going to say it. Now I'm the subject of the raid. I have the microphone. I can say it. Madeline Pendleton, come on Red Planet. Everyone should come on Red Planet and chat about organizing and the revolution and how fucked things are politically. It's just essential. Right. Where am I going? I am putting a link for The Tyranny of Structurelessness into this article because it needs it. Some people would argue every article needs it. They would be wrong. Actually, not every article does need a link to The Tyranny of Structurelessness, but this one does. Okay, I've updated it now. All good. Okay. We're going to read several different perspectives on the Epstein files. It's inescapable. It's the news that's just touching. It's touching on all the other news. The other news doesn't like it. Go figure. It's instead. Sorry, this is a tack towards a much more serious, but also very like abstract thing. I don't know if people here are familiar with the concept of hyperobjects. I talk about it in one of my videos, but like, the concept of something that is so big we can only kind of be within it, and you can't properly perceive it, and it's everything connects together with it, and it has the quality of being sticky, so like everything that comes into contact with it also becomes a part of it. So like 9/11, for example, is an oft-cited hyper object, and so is climate change, and so is like white supremacy. Like everything, there are these massive things that exist overlapping in society, and everything that is even slightly associated with it has kind of become part of it instantaneously. And I just feel like the Epstein files is one of the like most visible hyperobjects we've had in a while, where just like people are actually putting a ton of effort into pointing out people's associations with it, right? So it's like it's intensely extra obvious that like it has this sticky quality. Everyone's getting grabbed by the Epstein files and like conglomerated into the same entity. It's horrible. That all said, we're gonna look at some liberal slop about the Epstein files. We've got two different takes that are from The Economist and The Atlantic about like inside Epstein's files, and I wanted to bring them up on the liberal slop stream because there's a timer at the top of my chat that says join us in following Madeline Pendleton. Everyone should be following Madeline Pendleton. Please do that. I am already doing that. Good, I've just checked. If like very liberal publications are saying inside the Epstein files, it's going to be a bizarre contradiction to begin with, because the Epstein files, I think, strikes like everyone as being like, we're seeing the ruling class operate as a class in real time. Like, we're seeing the stuff that they do and what they produce, and it's pedophilic, barbarous fascism. And it's like a grim and horrible and fascinating peek inside the world of a very, very well-connected man in the ruling class. And The Economist and The Atlantic can't say that, right? Like, right? Like, that's not allowed. That's no bueno. So, let's go have a look. Firstly, at The Atlantic, I saw this one first because I think on Blue Sky someone had posted it saying a few days ago the far right started peddling a ton of apologia for Jeffrey Epstein and taking a new specific tack on it, like how to deal with the Epstein crisis. And as if by clockwork, here it appears in The Atlantic. So that's what we're gonna read now. Boba Mira, hello, welcome to the stream, says, is it true Blue Sky is a lib hellhole? Yes, let me just pull back on here for 1 second, because I want to do a plug anyway, but yes, I think I've described Blue Sky before as like the font that all lib slop comes pouring out of, actually. It's a fucking nightmare. I had something go popular on the Discover feed recently, and I now have like a lot more boomers following me, but also like a lot more boomers really mad at me. And all I said is that I think that Trump is not going to let votes happen. Like, he's pretty explicit about that, right? Like, everyone... I felt really crazy about it, because I was just like, he's not going to let there be elections. There's no way. And loads of people were like, how dare you say this? Yeah, I mean, it's several things, right? Like, Blue Sky is the methadone clinic for Twitter. Like, people get really, really bad Twitter addiction, and they need Blue Sky to, like, detox from it. And that's not a good thing for a social media website to be, in several different ways to begin with. It's also like, people who are promoting it often say, like, it's like Twitter before Twitter was owned by Musk, and it's like, that wasn't good. Anyway, before I start the article, since we've got loads of people here, I want to say, if you enjoyed the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command tip. My main income is through Patreon, so if you go to patreon.com/SophieFromMars, that's where I make my main income as a video essayist. You can see my YouTube channel. But for here now on the stream, I'm trying to hit a £270 dono goal today, because I aim for 150 each stream. And if we do that, then I'm going to add an extra stream on to the schedule next month, which will be a gaming stream. So if people use command tip and you want to help me be able to basically just pay my bills, like afford my rent and my food, and clothes to wear, and like my hormones, I set all of my goals for everything just based on what I need to get by. I'm not trying to buy any mansions in LA. But yeah, please tip if you are enjoying the stream. With 140 people watching right now, we could, if everyone donated £1, we would get almost immediately to the goal. So I'm just saying, like, even the tiniest little donations are very, very welcome and appreciated. So please tip, and now we can properly go into the article. Sorry for all the spiel, but here we go. Middle-earth Marxist, thank you for the £1 donation. And look how easy it is. Sloppies. Sorry, just before you all raided, we were having a vote on what the people who watch Liberal Slop are called, and Middle-earth Marxist maintains it's sloppies. Okay. Enough about that. What everyone assumes about Jeffrey Epstein, by Gilad Edelman. The theory that Epstein was blackmailing his rich contacts was always based on speculation. Oh, wow. Okay, this is pretty incredible stuff. So we're going to start, just to like log in some predictions before we go into this. We are talking about a billionaire pedophile with a private island who recorded a ton of stuff, who knew a ton of rich people, who, at least one of the things in the Epstein files literally is him writing a blackmail letter to Bill Gates, who had a bunch of intelligence agency connections. And the take here is, there's no evidence he was blackmailing them. And by extension, I guess the take is, people who just happen to be in the Epstein files, they aren't necessarily doing anything wrong. And that's horrifying on its own to see, because I already said, very recently actually, in a written piece, that there are a ton of people who think that if the people involved, if the people being trafficked and groomed, coerced, trafficked, forced into sex work, if none of them had been underage, there are some people who think that would have just kind of been fine and just part of like a rock star, cool guy, rich guy lifestyle. And I think the like, there's no blackmail angle implicitly like is trying to say they're not doing. Thank you very much, Empty Quote, for the £10 donation. I really appreciate that. That's 10 people's £1 is taken care of. So if you're not going to tip £1, at least say thank you to Empty Quote. So saying these people weren't being blackmailed is meant to say they're not part of the like pedophile billionaire club control network. But firstly, they are. It's called the ruling class. And secondly, they're still doing the stuff. All right. Let's have a look. In the case of Jeffrey Epstein, association seems to imply guilt. It's cancel culture. I keep making the joke about, like, Keir Starmer saying something exactly like this, but... And so the release of the so-called Epstein files is generating a wave of firings, resignations, and public apologies. Okay, maybe we'll get into Peter Mandelson, but, like, Peter Mandelson being the prime example that's, like, in front of me as a Brit, there's really good reasons for it. It's not just because he was, like, broadly associated. The health influencer Peter Attia had to resign from a protein bar company after emails showed him participating in crude banter with Epstein. CBS News, where Attia was recently hired as a contributor, pulled a 60-minute segment featuring him. Brad Karp, who in one email to Epstein gushed, "You're amazing," is stepping down as chair of the law firm Paul Weiss. Oof. Queen's University Belfast has announced that it is removing former US Senator George Mitchell's name from its Peace Institute and his bust from its campus. Mitchell, who is now 92 years old, presided over the negotiation of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998 and served as the school's chancellor for a decade, but the files suggest that Epstein has scheduled a meeting with him as recently as 2013. Los Angeles officials are calling for the city's Olympic Committee chair to resign because he exchanged flirtatious emails with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's accomplice, in 2003. The number of people who have put out statements insisting that they did nothing illegal and apologizing for having ever known Epstein is in the dozens and rising highly. It's not... I'm sorry, but it's just... You know why, bro? Like, are you trying to, like, pretend like you don't get why that is? Because, like, this is... Like, I made the joke at the start of this, but this isn't actually, like, cancel culture or whatever. Like, it's not... People... Okay. Let's pull off it for a second. Okay. Epstein was first arrested for being a nonce in 2006. It is now 2026. There's been 20 years where if anyone... had an innocent relationship to Epstein, just happened to chat with the guy, he sold them a house or something, he's been in the news, like, increasingly over time. And so, like, the opportunities have been there non-stop. Magic Dealer 222, thank you so much for the £5 donation. The opportunities have been there the whole entire time for people to just say, hey, probably if those files are released, you'll see an email where I'm emailing him about buying a house. But that's all it was. I was just buying a house. Did I say non-stop? And it sounded like I said non-stop. Yeah. Well, he was the top nonce, I guess. The opportunity has been there, and people have avoided telling anyone, like, because they get why. Anyway, sorry, this is already exhausting and stupid. Litty Braz, no one at The Atlantic is a serious journalist, TBH. They got kudos for breaking the Signal Gate story, but IMO, the reason that journalist was accidentally added is precisely because they're not a real journalist, and they were only a contact to begin with because they're drip-fed internal leaks to manufacture consent. I don't know about some of that message, but a better username than yours is now following. That's a pretty good username. Not the best I've seen. The point of looking at The Atlantic here is, like, The Atlantic... I mean, for one, it's literally founded by, like, 4 people with triple-barreled surnames. It's always existed as, like, a rag for the ruling class and, like, people who are, like, aspiring to be upper middle class or own many homes and be a buy-to-let landlord or all sorts of, like, you know, it's about... I know that the founders wouldn't have thought of this way. They would have all sorts of high-minded, probably transcendentalist ideas, but the Atlantic is the perfectly designed, like, producer of liberal slop. Like, the absolutely, like... And now, our RCS3 is replying to this saying, Ta-Nehisi Coates? Well, this is part of the issue of saying, like, no one there is a serious journalist. Like, I want to focus this for a second on, like, The Atlantic isn't a newspaper, it's a magazine, and it's meant to be there for, like, the intelligentsia to engage in you know, like, high-level political debate or whatever. And by doing that, it creates an arena that captures the imagination of what is, like, permissible in high-minded political discussion. And it doesn't... It has people who are regular writers for it, for sure, but, like, it's not a thing that we can simply, well, do like, associative guilt with it. Like, people, all sorts of people will write in it all the time, which is part of how it maintains legitimacy. Because, like, most people who are professional, who are public figures or professional writers, like, given an opportunity, would probably write in The Atlantic. Like, it would be big for them. But by maintaining a reputation and, like, a business model that's built on prestige, they're having an enormous effect on public discourse, while, like, not being journalists, really. Like, not in the sense of, like, investigative journalism, not in the sense of speaking truth to power, not in the sense of a lot of things. They're just, like, diarists, I guess. Like, they're sharing, like, flowery thoughts they've had. Okay, we're going to get back to the article, because I know we're quite off track now. Again, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command !tip. So, this guy called Epstein amazing. The guy who negotiated the capture of Northern Ireland is suddenly bad. Los Angeles officials calling for the Olympic Committee chair to resign. Everyone should be boycotting the Olympics anyway because it's in a fascist country. Okay. Nothing comparable happened in the cases of other high-profile sex criminals. The many famous friends of Harvey Weinstein or Bill Cosby generally did not issue public apologies. Epstein is different because under a certain set of assumptions, an individual's presence in the files is presumptively damning. I mean, if there were, to be fair here, if there was a big, like, email dump of, like, Harvey Weinstein or Bill Cosby's emails, and it showed a bunch of people mailing with them for a long, long time after they had been outed. Ray says, I hate the word slop, but this is making my brain melt. Okay, so I just realized, if if there are a ton of people here who are new viewers to the Liberal Slop stream, I have to be clear. I started doing the Liberal Slop stream in 2023. I have been using the word slop for people, the productions, the secretions of people like Ezra Klein, Ross Douthat, Ross Anderson, the publications of the Economist, the Atlantic, the Guardian, like I said, the New Statesman. I've been using the word slop for them for way, way, way longer than slop has been everywhere. I am, as Mule just said in chat, I am a slop hipster. That's true. And I've been saying it this whole time. And honestly, there's like way more of a case to call these things slop than to even call some AI-produced things slop. Like, part of my point in this is that there is a big apparatus that is just churning out think pieces all the time, op-ed after op-ed after op-ed. And when you read some of them individually, or you read some guy's book, right? You read fucking Abundance, speaking of Ezra Klein, or you see like a YouTube short of one of their takes, and they've got like the dark room, and they've got the podcast mic set up really close, and they're talking in a hushed voice. Like, all of that shit, it's it's all there to like whoop. It's all there to create an impression that they're really fucking smart, and just like they are absolutely churning this shite out, and that's why we look at it here on the stream. Okay. Nothing happened with similar high-profile sex criminals. Okay, again, he was arrested in 2006. Have you read Abundance? That's dedication to slopology. I haven't yet, and I'm considering it, and my plan is to make a liberal slop-focused video on my main channel and see if people like it, and then if they do, then I'll make a video about Abundance in the liberal slop series. I had thought the word slop used on the internet came from 4chan slang. I mean, if you go trying to root out things that have come from 4chan, like you just like a lot of the internet is just unfortunately downstream of 4chan culturally. But like, I would much prefer to like try to avoid a term because it's got an actual like an issue with its meaning. Like 4chan is also like use, you know, the second half of the R slur on the back of things to refer to the kind of person who likes that thing or whatever. And that doesn't inherently suck just because it's from 4chan. That sucks because it's deeply offensive and cruel. Okay, back to the article. Nothing comparable happened in the cases of other high-profile sex criminals. The many famous friends of Harvey Weinstein or Bill Cosby generally did not issue public apologies. Epstein is different because, under a certain set of assumptions, an individual's presence in the files is presumptively damning. Epstein is known to have paid or coerced dozens, possibly hundreds, of teen girls, some as young as 14, to perform sexual acts. I'm already, like, hating the language of this. Just like, whatever. Beyond what has been proved, the conventional wisdom holds that Epstein built his network by trafficking teen girls to other powerful men, whom he then blackmailed to generate his mysterious wealth. That his private plane and island were essentially brothels, that even friends who didn't participate in his crimes were surely aware of them and chose to consort with him anyway. Those assumptions are all widely held, but poorly sustained. The Epstein files reveal plenty of powerful people to have tolerated or participated in disgusting and shameful behavior. Far from shedding light on a grand conspiracy, however, the files bolster the case that although terrible crimes were committed, there never was a larger conspiracy to begin with. I'm really not sure about that, guys. Like, conspiracy belief and how it spreads is like a special area of study for me, as well as a special interest. And like, I'm not coming here looking to like believe in QAnon or whatever. But the conspiracy at play here is called the ruling class. Like, There is a real conspiracy here. It's the conspiracy of American imperialism, of Israeli white supremacist settler colonialism, of the patriarchy, of capitalism. It's the ruling class conspiring together to produce, again, pedophilic, barbarous fascism. That's what the conspiracy here is, and it is real. Sorry, I just realized while I was talking that my bra strap was like really badly twisted, and I had to fix it because it was driving me absolutely crazy. But I also didn't want to like stop the stream. Hey everyone, sorry I'm bad at wearing clothes. Just give me a minute. I have to stop the stream for it. Okay, where were we? For anyone who has only passively kept up with the Epstein story, this is hard to wrap one's head around. The notion that Epstein routinely trafficked teen girls to other men aboard the Lolita Express. You know how that's the name of his plane? You know? You know how his plane was just literally called the Lolita Express? In this article about how actually maybe some people just didn't know that he was a pedophile? You know? The notion Epstein routinely trafficked teenage girls to other men aboard the Lolita Express is widely accepted as fact. But the accusations that led to his initial criminal conviction were specific to Epstein himself. The notion of other abusers arose later, largely owing to explosive allegations first made in 2014 by Virginia Jeffrey. Jeffrey, who committed suicide in 2025, claimed that Epstein had trafficked her to some of his friends, including the nobleman formerly known as Prince Andrew and the defense attorney Alan Dershowitz. She may have been telling the truth. We do not know. Oh, Jesus Christ. But her claims, which later grew to include more men, have never been substantiated. Jesus fucking Christ. Guys, this article is just... this article is calling Virginia Jeffrey a liar. That's completely insane. That's so unbelievably unhinged. Who is this guy? The horseshoe theory of Trump. His economic approach combines libertarianism and authoritarianism. Yeah, he's a fascist, dickhead. Shut up. Okay, so he's a slop writer, we know that for sure. Gilad Edelman. It's probably largely going to be people just talking about how shit his article is if I search him up. Wrote for Wired, Grokipedia. Grokipedia is fucking bizarre. Do people know about this? It's like Grok's like rip-off of Wikipedia. They've just trained Grok on Wikipedia and then gotten it to spit back out a bunch of shit. Oh, God. I feel actively icky. Like, that's so gross to be... Like, I can't believe they fucking said that. Okay. I must persist with it. Everyone, I'd like to remind you I'm working right now, and it's nice to get paid for doing work. So if you're enjoying the stream, please do consider paying for the stream by subscribing or cheering or donating directly. Okay. Oh, I just hate this guy already, and but I'm gonna carry on. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna push through. The attorney, Brad Edwards, has represented more than 200 Epstein victims in civil lawsuits. As someone who earns money by suing perpetrators, he is perhaps the last person on earth with an incentive to downplay the culpability of Epstein's rich friends. Last week, Edwards told the BBC that one of his clients says Epstein flew her to the United Kingdom for sex with Andrew. But in an interview with ABC News last year, Edwards nonetheless dismissed the idea that Epstein ran a trafficking ring. Grokipedia really glazes the anti-immigration movement. Yes, I mean it's a Nazi resource, right? It exists to bolster the like shattered reality that Bannon and Epstein, we find out, constructed to make the world better for Nazi pedophiles. What were we up to? So last week, this lawyer said one of his clients says that she was trafficked to Andrew. Last year, Edwards dismissed the idea Epstein had run a trafficking ring. Right, but more evidence is now public, right? Like if last year he was saying, no, I don't think he ran a trafficking ring. Actually, you know what here? Like, this is worth saying. A core argument of this article, I feel, is about to be, at least, that the people who are in the Epstein files, emailing with Epstein, they've kind of already said this a bit, that these people didn't necessarily know about his terrible, terrible crimes. And simultaneously, this lawyer who works for someone who is an Epstein accuser, is supposed to have known already, right? Like, if someone were groomed and coerced and trafficked by Epstein and taken to his island, and they even were trafficked to other people, other rich, powerful men there, and came and abused them, like, they still might not necessarily allege an operation going on. Do you know what I mean? Like, there might be people who know that because they were there present with, like, what was obviously, like, an operation of this stuff going on, but they might have just had kind of their own experience to go on and been fairly in the dark about some stuff. I'm just saying. Okay, back on it. Epstein was the pimp and the John. He was his own number one client, he said. Nearly all of the exploitation and abuse of all the women was intended to benefit only Jeffrey Epstein and Jeffrey Epstein's sexual desires. So that's nearly all. He was the number one client. Okay. That doesn't actually completely dismiss the idea. Maxwell was convicted of trafficking girls to Epstein. Edwards allowed that a select few of Epstein's friends might have engaged in sexual acts with a select few of the girls. There's words for that. That's pedophilia and rape. That's not engaging in sexual acts. But argued that Epstein otherwise lived a double life. In one, he hobnobbed with artists, billionaires, and politicians. In the other, he abused women and girls. For the most part, Edwards said, those two worlds did not overlap. That's from a quote last year, and he said for the most part, he's not saying... I read that a lot more as him saying not everyone would have known, or a good number of people wouldn't have known, not there was no trafficking ring. The theory that Epstein was blackmailing his rich contacts was also always based on speculation. Well, as of the latest release, we have at least like a drafted email to Bill Gates where Epstein is very obviously blackmailing him. So I don't know what to say there. Like, we've seen that now, right? Like, chat, you know what I'm referring to, right? Okay. As an exhaustive New York Times Magazine investigation recently explained, Epstein built his fortune mainly by insinuating himself as a wealth manager for a few super-rich old men drawing hefty fees. One of those men, Leslie Wexner, has said that Epstein misappropriated $46 million of his money. Nor is it obvious that Epstein's friends necessarily knew about his crimes. Some surely did. Brad Karp, the Paul Weiss chair, kept emailing with Epstein through 2019, after his offences had become national news, but plenty might not have. Sorry, like, might not have is such an amazing bar to be aiming for here. They might have not known, and that's the same as they definitely didn't, and were completely innocent. His 2008 plea deal is scandalous precisely because he was allowed to admit to the lesser offense of soliciting underage prostitution rather than rape or child sex abuse. He spent only a year in jail and continued to move in polite society once he got out. Acquaintances might have taken all that as evidence that whatever he had done wasn't so bad, or they might have not known about it at all. He surely did not go round telling them the truth. Inversely, having been friends with Epstein before... Well, that's interesting, right? Because again, there's the Branson email. There's the Branson email where Branson's saying to him, get Bill Gates to say that you slept with someone who's 17 and a half and the whole thing got blown out of proportion and you'll probably be fine. And it's very clearly like Branson coaching him on a lie. Like he's saying, this is a thing you could use. This is a line you could take. Which is like, I don't... like seeing someone help someone else lie about their pedophilia is a very hard place to then argue from, like, they didn't know at all. Or didn't know the... Middle-earth Marxist says, did a demon write this? It is kind of demonic, right? Who is Gilad Edelman? Like, this is so fucking actually evil. Like, Jesus. Whew, crikey. Okay. What site is this again? This is The Atlantic. Alright. Inversely, having been friends with Epstein before his conviction is no proof of ignorance. Donald Trump, for example, insists that he fell out with Epstein in the 2000s before the guilty plea. But in 2002, he told New York Magazine that Epstein was a terrific guy, before noting, it's even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. He told New York Magazine that in 2002? Donald Trump is, like, uniquely bad at being a crime guy for, like, the level that he is invested in being a crime guy. He is, like, hilariously bad at, like, keeping secrets or, like... Oof. The notorious birthday book that was released well before the most recent document dump makes clear that many of Epstein's powerful friends knew about and celebrated his interest in girls. Boba Mira says, now I need to know about this author's, Gilad Edelman, this author's friend group. So if Gilad's friend was convicted, not looking into it is an honest mistake. Like, like, this is the thing. Look, I don't think, like, let me be clear. Like, okay, if Gilad Edelman's friend was convicted of any crime, I guess, like, I don't necessarily think that person should have, in fact, I don't think that person should have, like, no friends and no support and be completely, like, abandoned to the, just, like, thrown to the wolves. Like, But that's not the situation with Jeffrey Epstein. The guy carried on owning a private island up until he decided to hang himself entirely voluntarily. And as we're learning from these emails, he had tons of friends. Like, plenty of people have an enormous amount of power in the world and use that power, like the power that they have specifically to do evil shit. It's not the same as if, like, someone, like, I'm trying to be generous here to this absolute fucking hobgoblin who wrote this article, but, like, someone in his social circle, hopefully it's not the same social circle. You know what? It's just hit me, like, who would write this article, right? Like, the reason you'd be writing this is because you know a bunch of people in the Epstein files. This is so fucked. Okay. Chat. I'm trying to hit 270 pounds on stream donos today. We're currently at 137, so we need 113 pounds. There are 93 viewers right now, so if everybody here gave £2 just 2 little pounds right now, then I would fly past that goal and we would add on a gaming stream for next month. So if you are enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer, or if you want to help me hit that goal, donate directly using command tip. Let's carry on with the article over here. Here it is. Epstein has been dead for much longer than he was a household name. Although he had... Epstein has been dead for much longer than he was a household name. No, people were talking about Epstein before he died. Like, he's become a bigger and bigger story, but people were absolutely... People were absolutely aware of this stuff before he died, and it was already... Hang on a second. As you said in this article, this is slop. This really is slop, actually. Like, this is a bit dire. They already said in this article that his case was national news by the time that he died. Like, okay, whatever. Although he had appeared in the news over the years, few Americans knew who he was until November 2018, so that's before he died, when investigative reporter Julie K. Brown published her now legendary expose in the Miami Herald. Less than 8 months later, the Department of Justice charged Epstein with sex trafficking, and in August 2019, less than a year after the story broke, Spiffy Juggins, thank you so much for tipping. Okay, I don't know if there's a user in chat who has the username Spiffy Juggins, or if one of the Americans who raided in is trying to flirt with me, a booby British lady. But either way, Spiffy Juggins entertained me. Thank you for that. I now see Spiffy Juggins in chat. Great username, incredible. Thank you, and thank you for the tip. I'm just gonna skip past the rest of this paragraph because he's actually just like going back on his own bullshit at this point. In death, Epstein has taken on far more... Oh, he's still doing the same shit. Why not both? Oh. Oh. Why not both? In death, Epstein has taken on far more significance than he did in life. Some Americans were already primed to believe in international pedophilia rings, bonus points if they were run by wealthy Jews. All right. Jews who were on the Mossad payroll, as many conspiracists have insisted Epstein was. All right. These two lines here make me completely fucking insane. DJ Mule, thank you so much for the £1 donation and the message, a quid. So easy. It is actually so easy, chat. And if you do just all donate £1 or £2 each, we could get to that goal really, really fast. These two lines here are going to make my, like, skull burst open. I feel like a building pressure in here. This is completely insane. Some Americans were already primed to believe in international pedophilia rings. Yes, that's true. There was a conspiracy theory going around, wasn't there? There was a conspiracy theory going around that was about that, and it started on 4chan, didn't it? Didn't it, chat? Didn't it start on 4chan on the /pol/ board, the politics discussion board of the Nazi pedophile website? The Nazi pedophile website that was run by Christopher Moot Poole, who appears in the Epstein files, who the same day that he chatted with Epstein restarted the /pol/ board. Epstein, the guy who discusses openly in the files how he and all of the big movers and shakers in the MAGA movement and resurgent fascism and nationalism over the last few years are working together to make a more Nazi world so that they could get away with doing more pedophilia. Yes, there was already a conspiracy theory going round that there were international rich pedophilia rings. As far as we can tell, they put that conspiracy theory about to muddy the waters to make it so that Gilad Edelman could write this article right now, dismissing it. I'm going to go insane. I'm going to fucking lose it. Gilad Edelman is accusing Epstein's critics of anti-Semitism in these lines. Okay? Like, that's what's... I'm sorry, but, like... Some Americans were already primed to believe in international pedophilia rings. Bonus points if they were run by wealthy Jews. What happens then if... What... Gilad, I have a question. What happens if you don't hate Jews and don't hate Judaism and actually like understand? I mean, you have to separately like. It's just hit me how Zionist the Atlantic is, so I'm gonna get absolutely nowhere here. But like, what happens if you're not looking for it to be Jewish, and then the guy just does happen to be Jewish? But what also happens if he was in contact with the Mossad and he was working with the Mossad, but he was also working with the CIA and MI5? Like, he appears to have been involved in fucking Iran-Contra. Like, this guy seems to have had fingers in a lot of pies. Okay. These two lines, I do feel gaslit. I feel gaslit. I hate how much, like, how overused the term gaslit is at this point, but, like, this is someone telling us directly, like, you only believe that Epstein was running an international billionaire pedophile club because you're anti-Semitic. What are you supposed to do with that? Like, what are you supposed to do when someone says that? Like, what are you supposed to do? You can't say it in Twitch terms of service. I'll tell you that. That's you can't. Lil Escape, thank you so much. An anonymous gifter gave Lil Escape a tier 1 sub. So, thank you, an anonymous gifter, for the gift sub. If someone says you only believe that Epstein was running a child trafficking ring because you're anti-Semitic and he was Jewish, what are you supposed to, like, what do you do? I have a reaction emotionally that I feel is the appropriate one. I can't describe it on Twitch terms of service. This is so evil. Like, this is so evil. At risk of me saying that it's demonic is also like an anti-Semitic slur or whatever. Like, this is so demonic to be like, like calling Virginia Giuffre a liar, for one. Making all the arguments that this article is about, for two. Just the general theme of it, just like actually the ruling class aren't guilty of these crimes, they're just near these crimes, which is fine. And saying that people are just like, it's doing me in, chat. Like, genuinely, this is too much. I just, like, I'm gonna try reading it one more time, but it's just making me so insane. Here are the two lines. Some Americans were already primed to believe in international pedophilia rings. No, I'm already hanging up there because, like, again, we know that Epstein was in touch with Christopher Poole, and we know that Christopher Poole restarted /poll, the politics discussion board on his Nazi pedophile website, after talking to Epstein. Some Americans were already primed to believe in international pedophilia rings. Bonus points if they were run by wealthy Jews. It's not Jews' fault that Epstein, a wealthy Jew, was running this pedophile operation. Bonus points if they were run by wealthy Jews. Jews who were perhaps on the Mossad payroll, as many conspiracists have insisted Epstein was. Epstein was not paid by the Mossad, but he was incredibly closely... Like, Ehud Barak is in the Epstein files. Like, the former Prime Minister of Israel is in the Epstein files. We must carry on. We simply must carry on. I can't stay on these two, like, completely brain-breaking sentences the rest of the night. I simply can't do it. But I don't really know if I'll ever emotionally move past those two sentences. That was completely insane. Like, that's completely nuts. Especially potent was the notion of a client list naming everyone in Epstein's trafficking ring. This idea seemed to explain why he'd received a lenient deal in 2008. By the way, like, only half the files are out right now, right? Like, we also know that. Like, that's a thing I hope people realize. Like, we haven't seen all the files now yet either. Zyros, thank you so much for the £3 tip. Zyros says, "Here, I'm using my special demon powers for good, not to glaze over pedo-billionaires." Yeah, there are good ways to be demonic. Okay. Just be a little imp, you know? Just be a cheeky little guy. Lorcan says, "Has Soph really been trying to read this article for 70 of God's minutes?" That would be so dire. Okay, no, I read one of my own articles before going into Liberal Slop, and then I got very sidetracked because we got a big raid in, and I was very excited about it. But now I am... But yes, this is still the first Liberal Slop article, so I will pick it up now. Okay. This idea seemed to explain why he received a lenient deal in 2008 to protect his powerful clients, and why he had supposedly been murdered in jail. This guy is going so far as to say Epstein did kill himself. Like, this is like from a fucking Twilight Zone episode. Like, how does a guy like this exist? Okay. This was all a natural fit for members of the MAGA right, some of whom already believed that Trump had been sent by God to expose pedophiles. Even though Trump was president when Epstein died in federal custody and had enjoyed a well-publicized friendship with him in the period when Epstein is known to have been abusing teen girls, the MAGA movement nurtured the idea that Democrats were covering up the Epstein files to protect their own. Where's it gone? Trump himself said that he would release the files if he won a second term. During a Fox News interview in February 2025, Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed that the client list was sitting on my desk right now to review. I need to get more coffee. Sorry, everyone. Sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. When Trump abruptly backtracked, declaring the whole Epstein matter to be a witch hunt, then he did that. Middle-earth Marxist says, "No one killed more Jeffrey Epsteins than Donald Trump." You can't deny that. Like, I don't know if people... It's not just circumstantial, like, the actual, like, detail... I was going to say circumstances then, but that would have sounded really silly. But, like, the details of Epstein's death, like, are crazy suspicious, actually, in themselves. I'm getting dangerously close to once again just saying, do your own research here. This is what the Epstein files have done to all of us. We're living in a conspiracy world now. Okay. Trump backtracked, said it was a witch hunt, suddenly released the files, was just about the only thing this nation could agree on. Trump's explanations for the reversal were so bizarrely unconvincing that it was hard to believe the files wouldn't contain damaging information about him. Again, they're not all out yet. The longer Trump delayed, the more explosive the files seemed destined to be. Could the client list include Trump himself? The truth seems to be that there never was a client list. The Epstein files encompass millions of documents in the Department of Justice's possession, including seemingly every email to or from Epstein's account over a period of years. To say that someone is in the Epstein files, therefore, doesn't mean much on its own. Some names are discussed by Epstein and his assistants, but are not attached to any correspondence. Others appear only in news clippings. Trump does appear many times, but in the third person. Trump famously does not like to use email, because he can't read. The most explosive claims against him are unvetted allegations submitted to the government. The most explosive claims against Trump are all the completely proven in court, and he's given massive settlements, accusations of sexual violence against Trump, actually. Gilad Edelman. Many of the emails are newsworthy. Some of Epstein's male friends seem to have relied on him for introductions to young, but not underage, women who were either sex workers or aspiring sugar babies. That's fine. I'm not going to get into semantics. He says newsworthy. I think, like, a young woman who's, like, 18 to 20 or whatever, who's meeting a billionaire, like, the dynamics of, like, abuse there, the power dynamic that leads to extreme abuse there is just as present if she's, like, a year younger or whatever. Like, it's just, like, people don't actually go through a magical transformation, and, like, we should actually respect that, like, people who are very young still shouldn't be being, like, taken to parties and employed as sex workers by, like, 60-year-old billionaires, and that's actually still, like, morally bankrupt enough to be warranting serious action. In one email, Epstein tells Andrew, then 50, about a beautiful 26-year-old Russian woman that Epstein thinks he should meet. Andrew replies that he'd be delighted. In others, that itself is already, like, Epstein clearly was trafficking people to Andrew. Like, that's, you agree on that. That's what you just said that, Gilad. Like, in there. Like, that's what you're saying there. I hate this dude. Like, I actually hate, like, this dude sucks so bad. Let's get through the rest of it. Okay, delighted. In others, Steve Tisch, co-owner of the New York Giants, solicits information about potential sex partners from Epstein, at points asking for clarification on whether they're a working girl or civilian. Both Andrew and Tisch have denied any wrongdoing. Peter Mandelson, who was recently removed from his role as British ambassador to the United States over his Epstein ties, not only emerges as one of Epstein's closest and creepiest confidants, but also appears to have fed Epstein financially valuable information from meetings with government officials. It's a bit more evolved than that. Like, Epstein was, like, acting as a go-between with, like, finance capital bigwigs and Mandelson, and, like, lobbying for the interests of the money touchers, like, very directly. Spiffy Juggins says, I may have more tolerance for Ezra Klein at this point.
At the end of...
It's so funny you should say that. We'll see what you're saying soon. No, I think this guy is worse. I just, to be completely clear here. Chat, I am streaming right now, and I'm doing that. That's work that I'm doing. I like getting paid for doing work. I assume you do as well. It would be really nice if you could tip and help me reach my dono goal for today, which is $2.70. There are 85 people viewing right now, which means that if everyone donated like £1.50 even, we would get way over the goal immediately. So small donations still matter. Please use command tip and help me to pay my rent and bills. Where are we? Mandelson. Yeah, Mandelson was in a very, very involved role there. Like, he was not at all, like, I don't know, simply giving financially beneficial information to Epstein. Like, there was a very, I don't know. This guy is just kind of lying about this stuff with a bunch of, I think, this guy is lying about a bunch of stuff, I think with the hope that a bunch of people who read this will simply never look in the Epstein files themselves. Like, he's striking a confident tone and saying that he is debunking misinformation, which is like second only to striking a confident tone and just stating conspiracy theories in terms of like unhelpful, unmethodological approaches to misinformation. Deinonychus Turbo Laser, welcome to the stream. Lovely to have you here. Wallada says, time for the John Marco Cerisi rule. There is no way to talk about semantics around pedophiles without outing yourself as a pedophile. I am not publicly accusing Gil Edelman of being a pedophile. That's not a claim I'm making on the stream here. I just thought that was a funny message, and I've read it out now, and now I'm going to move on. Where were we? Noam Chomsky, the linguist and political theorist, is seen advising Epstein on how to manage the fallout from his conviction. Other documents contradict what prominent people have said about the connections to Epstein. Elon Musk, for example, is one of the world's most foremost purveyors of Epstein conspiracism. He posted last fall that Epstein tried to get me to go to his island and I refused. In fact, as the New York Times has reported, the files suggest that Musk was eager to go. What day/night will be the wildest party on your island, he emailed Epstein in 2012. Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce, has claimed that he vowed in the mid-2000s to, quote, never be in a room with that disgusting person ever again. The files show him emailing Epstein in 2012 to arrange a family visit to Epstein's private island. More unseemly or even criminal material may well come out. Perhaps evidence will even emerge to prove Epstein systematically trafficked minors to other men or blackmailed them over legal but secret liaisons. Pocket Dear, thank you so much for the £2 tip and saying, love your work a bunch. I really appreciate that. That's really nice of you. Reminder, everyone, most of the raiders missed it. Most of the viewers right now who raided it and missed it. But I was reading a piece from my Substack earlier, which I would love if people read. It's advice about organizing. And Deinonychus Turbo Laser, thank you so much for the £5 tip. I really appreciate that. We're now at 150. So we're trying to hit 270. That's 120 away. I keep on doing the maths on this really dodgy. But again, like £1.50-ish each. Even small donations matter a lot, because if everybody did them, we'd get past the goal. And I really appreciate everyone who's tipped so far. Okay. More may come out that proves the exact thing everyone's saying, that everything kind of Howard Nutlick. You tell him, Mule. Because the Epstein conspiracy theory is treated as reality by so many, however, okay, all right, let's go back to this. Conspiracy theories. Here are 5 things that are academically studied about conspiracy belief. They are universal. There is no group of people who is impervious to believing conspiracy theories. So anyone definitionally who's talking about conspiracy belief as if it's a thing stupid people do is an asshole on a bell end, and you have my permission to tell them that. Conspiracy theories are universal. Conspiracy theories are social. You believe the things that the people around you believe. Go figure. Conspiracy theories are consequential. They're not conspiracy theories, they're just wacky beliefs, unless they make you do something, like change who you vote for, or make you avoid some people, or whatever. Consequential. Universal, social, consequential, emotional. They are based on emotional truth, right? There are emotional truths that we observe because we are not rational creatures, we are emotional creatures, and we need stories that make sense emotionally to us. And 5, and this one's really important, they reflect intergroup social conflicts. There are some conspiracy beliefs swirling around the Epstein case, for sure. They all also mirror an intergroup social conflict between the working class, people who are terrifyingly alienated, emotionally and spiritually crushed, isolated and siloed and deprived of basic human nourishment in the realms of like community and fulfillment and expression of creativity and agency in our lives. Conflict between the working class and the ruling class, the people who studies show are statistically more likely to be literal psychopaths and have zero empathy for anyone else. Studies show that people who are richer literally look at the faces of other people just less and just move in their own world because they can, because they have money. In patriarchal capitalism, women and children are treated like property. Women are better property if they are younger and more manipulable and weaker, and therefore easier to abuse and control. And men are higher status ranking in the world if they have more money and more power and more property. Therefore, the end point logically of patriarchal capitalism is an old rich man with a child bride, or better yet, many child brides. Epstein read very directly from the emotional logic of patriarchal capitalism and just did what the instructions said. The idea is at core extremely believable to lots of people that loads of other rich guys were doing the same exact thing with him, because if they weren't, they were probably doing it elsewhere without him, right? Like, that's just how this system fits together. It points towards pedophilia and pedophilic sex trafficking, because like the revelations that they were working together to make the world fascier because fascism is more okay with pedophilia because it gives fewer rights to women and to children and to gender minorities and to racialized minorities and to disabled people, and all of these things compound the abusability of women and children. That, like, them planning that hasn't come as a surprise to people. Like, maybe there are some right-wingers who are going, oh, fuck, we're completely cooked. Like, I really thought these were my genuine beliefs and I've been propagandized to. And I hope that's happening to them. I hope they're waking up. But people who didn't already have those beliefs, it's not a surprise to see this stuff. Because we already knew that the pedophilic corporate elite and the Nazis were not just working together, but were the same people. Like, Nazi pedophile is just the full name for Nazi, actually. And has been the whole time. And so, like, when we're talking about misinformation, when we're talking about conspiracy belief around Epstein specifically, there are many interesting things going on, because for one, there's like the conspiratorial nexus point of Epstein. He just knew a lot of people in the ruling class, and so projecting conspiracy theories onto this shape, like whichever story you want to tell about the ruling class being evil, you can via Epstein. But frankly, I tend to agree with what the Houthis were chanting. The cursed Jeffrey, the pedophiles, summarized it. Like, he's just a summary of the whole thing. Like, that's what people can see here. Like, they can just see a summary of the whole entire thing we've been saying the entire time about how the world basically works and why the system needs to be burned to the ground. All right. This guy's winding me up. Stuff about J.K. Rowling. Yes, there's been some misinformation there. Epstein committed horrific acts against a staggering number of women and girls, but judging from the available evidence, he was not at the center of a global pedophilia ring. You mean it has not yet been definitively proved? Okay. They included dozens of criminal co-conspirators. The apparent truth is somehow even more depressing. More depressing than horrific acts against a staggering number of women and girls? The apparent truth is, smarmy jerks can get obscenely wealthy just by managing other people's money. He's ending out the article saying, the real problem with Epstein is that he was a smarmy jerk. No, hang on. Smarmy jerks can get obscenely wealthy managing other people's money. Men who sexually abuse women and children can be charming. What is this sentence doing? What? The most accomplished people in our society can be terrible judges of character. Okay, the most accomplished people? this is a point at which I am like dangerously close to saying a bunch of like not TOS stuff right here. Like, this makes me so angry, chat, that like I I could not possibly say on stream right now, like if you're talking about the ruling class, if you're talking about the ruling elite, they haven't accomplished things. That's the whole nature of their existence. They've stolen other people's time and effort and claimed it as their own, along with the value that they've stolen. Whew. And they weren't terrible judges of character. They didn't care. That's not being a terrible judge of character. Being a terrible judge of character is being like, this person will not hurt me or my friends, and then they do. Right? Being a terrible judge of character is like, this person is really reliable, and I'm going to like put a lot on them to rely on them to get stuff done for me, and they can't. Right? Or whatever. Being a terrible judge of character is getting scammed in some way, which implies a level of involvement that Gilad Edelman is flatly denying anyone had. And actually, they just didn't care. They just didn't care. They just didn't care. I'm sorry. Like, this is such stinking fucking bullshit. Like, this is such an aggravating article. What the fuck? They can, in the pursuit of proximity, wealth, and power, ignore or downplay what's right in front of them. The Epstein files show us that the world is an ugly and unfair place, but we already knew that. Fuck off. Fuck off, you stinky loser. You stinky fucking pedophile defending loser. Jesus fucking Christ. Gilad Edelman. Fuck off. Alright. Alright, that one's wound me up quite a lot. Oh, this is still the same screen. Okay, we're taking a breath. Okay, chat. These are the typical questions I like to ask after liberal slop articles. I'm going to ask them, but this one is kind of screaming the answers at us. What do we feel like this article was trying to achieve? And what do we feel like its purpose in an ecosystem of op-eds and think pieces and slop is? Which is slightly different, right? It's not just like about authorial intent. There's also like the editor considers which pieces to commission. Yeah. What are our takes, chat? Also, I'm going to take this moment while chat is typing their answers to say hi to the VOD viewers, who I haven't actually said hello to yet. Hi, VOD viewers. It's nice to have you here. I didn't read any comments this week because there actually just weren't too many comments this week, and none particularly worth reading. But I really appreciate the people who watch my VODs, and if you are a regular VOD viewer, this is your reminder to go to my Patreon and subscribe there to pay me regularly for if you regularly watch the streams, or you can just donate to me regularly, which I've noticed some people have been doing as well as subscribing to the Patreon, and I really appreciate that too. If you want to leave a message and tell me that it's for that, that's nice. If you don't, no pressure at all. Yeah, check below the VOD for links where you can send me money to help me pay my bills. Okay, DJ Mule says, Epstein and ruling class apologia, I can never remember how to say this word. That's what it was doing. I think the journalist thought he was being smart and nuanced, but he's actually just being nonce-onced. He's being nuanced. No. Okay. Pocket Deerbelly says, I only caught the middle of it, but it feels like it's defending the ultra-wealthy, like feigning their innocence and portraying Epstein as an exception. Vaudrella, hey Vaudrella, says, I feel like it was trying to say, if you want serious consequences here, I want you to feel like nobody will take you seriously. Oof. Oof. It's a very brutal description of it, but I think there's quite an accurate description of it, unfortunately. Yeah, really horrible. Really just disgusting article. In so many ways. Hummus Guzzler, excellent username, shepherding liberals who might have had their worldview shaken back toward the status quo. I like that one quite a lot. I like that one actually quite a lot. That's a very good take on what's going on here. And the reason is, there is a crisis in liberal reality at the moment, right? Like there is observably, from like Ezra Klein saying I don't know what my role is anymore, through like the complete ineptitude of the Democrats under fascism, like which we already knew about, but now it's so much worse. Through the release of the Epstein files, like liberals are in absolute tatters right now, and I think that like an enormous amount of the world presently is just saying, "Yep, it is actually socialism or barbarism." It's always been that. It's really obvious to me now. I had my doubts before, but it's just really clear now that it's socialism or barbarism, and I can only either choose to be a communist or a fascist. And like literally, this is what the popular culture is saying. People are just like actually agreeing that like the status quo was already broke, and we're gonna have to have something different to have something good at all. Zyro says, for some reason, to try so very hard to obfuscate for the billionaire class and their crimes, this writer ultimately serves the ruling class and thinks he needs to make them look human. Sorry, I'm so shaken from this demonic article. I think we should all try like have a breath for a minute, because this has just been so fucking disgusting. Sorry, I just saw a funny message in my support bubble Discord. Oh, chat. You know what? Actually, I'll just tell you about this briefly while we're having a breath to chill out. I have a support bubble Discord, and I wanted to just like mention this to people because I know there are some people who watch me who value my takes on surviving having very shit mental health, because I've very publicly had very shit mental health for most of the time I've been a public figure. And I'm like, you know, even when I'm not mentally ill, I am mad. And if you have someone in your life who's going through a mental health crisis, construct a support bubble for them. Get the people who are happy to be like on shift to support them together into a chat, and work together with them to build like some kind of structure around them in terms of what they need. Like it's really, really good for you actually if you're like in a state of like really intense crisis. And something that can go really badly for people who have a certain flavor of bad mental health is that they can go around telling everyone that they've got no one and then put immense pressure on people in a way that makes them like quit out on them. And actually drawing together people who love and support them into one spot where they're coordinating together to support the person makes everything way easier. So if people didn't know about that, about support bubbles, have a think about it. Yeah, that article sucked so bad. I think that I like Hummus Guzzler's take the best, shepherding liberals who might have had their worldview shaken back toward the status quo, because I think there is some, like, we can imagine it as the editor, right? But we're trying, I just want to be clear here, we're trying to do a little bit of organ thought, we're trying to do a little bit of, like, fractal logic here. Like, so it's not so much about, like, what any one real person or, like, believes per se, but it's actually quite useful for us to imagine, like, the intentions of the Atlantic, and then, like, the intentions of the, like, broader liberal slop machine. And we can project that onto, like, an editor, and I think that's quite useful, because that's probably the single person who's closest to that function by being the person who has, like, the overview of the magazine and what goes into it and what gets published and what doesn't, and what they're all titled as well. So we can imagine an editor, right? And they're probably keenly aware that their magazine has fuck all to offer people if they're not, if people, like, just don't really buy into liberal bullshit. And so, yeah, I like that take. I think that's actually, like, really super accurate to what's going on here. I'm going to put the music back on for a couple minutes while I make myself a nice cup of tea, and I'm actually going to not intermission screen this time. By the way, I've been doing a bunch of edits for the intermission screen because I want to have a really sick, like, looping thing with... Actually, we have raiders, so people won't have seen them before. Okay, I'll talk you through it for a second before I go on my tea break. But I have, like, as well as Zuck What else have we got? Let's turn that off for a second. We got Zuck, we got the Kid Starver one, we've got Ezra saying he doesn't know what his role is anymore, this amazingly terrible picture of RFK, and Zoran with a tiny head, which is like personally my favorite one. And like, and where am I? Back over here. Hello. And I've done a bunch of other edits and stuff, but I want to, like, instead of having the different options and I have to pick one, just have like one looping thing. So I've included like a ton of the like bizarre, awkward images I've got already, alongside edits that I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to skip the Economist's take because it was tedious and doing a lot of the same stuff, not as aggressively as Gilad Edelman. So when we're back from tea break and me getting a cup of tea, we're going to watch a little bit of Ezra Klein's podcast. Once again, it was literally uploaded 5 hours ago. We're just going to watch like a little bit of it and see what his take on, it's titled The Infrastructure of Jeffrey Epstein's Power. What his take is. Mish Cosplay says tea break because of transgender. Okay, I'm gonna go off for to make myself some tea, and in the meantime, please remember that I'm doing work and that I would like to get paid for it. So, and VOD viewers, this includes you as well. Please tip and then give me the money with money me. Please.
It's a crisis of unknown magnitude. Everything to help us find. Are you with?
2 minutes.
Yes, sir, yes.
I recall that we used to watch black and white movies. Musicals. I remember you tutoring me in math. You instilled in me a strong work ethic. Work hard, play later. As you said, you should know I've chosen a career that you would approve of. Dedicated my life to the exploration of space. Thank you for that.
Weirdo of Oz says tea for tea break. And I do actually generally go and kiss my wife, another trans woman, during the breaks. So it's always a tea for tea break, really. Mama Sofshinsky, thank you so much for the £3 tip and saying, hope you're having a lovely day. I'm having a lovelier day for you being here and for your tip. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. We are back. And it's time for us to venture into one of the sloppiest places on the internet altogether. The Ezra Klein Show podcast. Okay. Where's Ezra Klein gone? There he is. Alright. I apologize in advance for this. I had wanted to do the Atlantic one and then the Economist one and have a focus on what are their different approaches to looking at the insides of the ruling class doing the thing it does, and everyone can tell they're disgusting and evil and is rightfully mad at them. And I think that Gilad Edelman one was just enough on its own. So we're gonna get Ezra's take because he's our special little guy. We're gonna go see what Ezra Klein is saying just because he's the special little guy of the liberal slop stream. That's actually not true. I think that left electoralism guys like Zoran Mamdani, those are our like special little guys, right? You always have to remember in electoral politics that he's just a little guy. Like whoever it is, Bernie, he was just a little guy. Corbyn, he was just a little guy. Zoran Mamdani, he's just a little guy. And what I mean by this is that, like, when people are, like, super into whichever person it is, like, that's their blorbo, you know? Like, that's their special little guy. Like, Hannah Spencer for the Greens, anyone that people are talking about in electoral politics, they're attached to, like, a parasocial persona of that person who is just a little guy and can do no wrong. And so you need to remember this, especially like if you're ever going to argue with someone who is like really into that person. So Ezra is not our special little guy in that sense, but he is in the sense that we're hoping that that Ta-Nehisi Coates conversation got through to him at all, and we're trying to see any amount of change whenever we check in with Ezra. So this is just our regularly scheduled Ezra check-in to see if he's shifted at all. Because I recently saw a clip from before the big file drop, where he said there probably wasn't going to be any more come out because there are really well-paid lawyers who could earn a lot of money by doing this stuff, and journalists who could get a lot of money by exposing this stuff. And so it would have come out because of the capital, like the profit incentive, basically, just unhinged. And it would be nice if he would explicitly retract that take, I think. That would be pretty good. Now that he's been proven objectively wrong in that. So I'm hoping that the podcast is going to start with Ezra being a little self-effacing. Joe says, Lamau, what a cope. Yeah, it's a bad time. It's pretty fucking wild. Let's go see some Ezra Klein. I'm very sorry. Once again, if you're enjoying the stream, consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command tip. And I'm trying to hit 270. Let's review the numbers again. 64 viewers. A lot of the raiders have now sloughed off because they're not regular viewers. I respect it. Someone they like more has come online. They got to go watch them. That's just their little guy. Hassan is their blorbo, whatever. I don't know. Pocket Deerbelly says, sorry off topic. I just noticed your awesome silica gel pillow. Thank you. I got this as a Christmas present for my wife because she's always talking about how much she wants to eat real silica gel packets. And I wanted to get her one that she could bite. It's very pleasing to just like chow down on. Deinonychus Turbo Laser says, I'm holding my breath for a liberal to admit they were wrong. Right, yeah, absolutely. Okay, the maths on it. If we're going to hit the target today, 270, it's 155 right now. It's basically 120 to get there. There's basically 64 viewers. Both of those are slightly wrong, but they kind of cancel each other out. If everyone right now gave me £2, not a lot of money, £2, we would hit the goal immediately. So consider even small donations. It will make a big difference. And now we must begin.
At the end of January, Trump's Department of Justice released what it said was the last tranche of Epstein files. Millions of emails and texts, FBI documents, and court records. It's just a huge dump of information. Journalists, investigators, and the public are sifting through them as we speak. What's amazing, though, is how much we just still don't know, or at least don't know yet. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who before he joined the DOJ was Trump's personal lawyer, has said that
the department's collection effort resulted in more than 6 million pages being identified as potentially responsive.
But they released only about 3.5 million pages to the public. So what's in the 2.5 million pages we haven't seen?
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, Congressman Massey and I went to the Department of Justice to read the unredacted Epstein files. We spent about 2 hours there, and we learned that 70 to 80% of the files are still redacted. In fact, there were 6 wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason.
So we are still far from the end of this story. We're still far from knowing much of what we want to know inside the story. But what has come into clear view is the incredible breadth of Epstein's network, the huge range of people who relied on him, communicated with him, traded with him, and the role he played in this network, the role he played among the American elite as a broker of information, connections, wealth, and ultimately human being.
Okay, I mean, he's saying it. He's certainly not taking the Gilad Edelman take, at least. That's like a low bar cleared. Congratulations, Ezra. Everyone please clap for Ezra. He's done it. He's cleared the bar of being coming out the gate defending pedophiles. All right, let's go.
This is what I think the files, along with a lot of amazing reporting and courageous testimony, have at least begun to answer. Where Epstein's mysterious power came from. Why so many famous and powerful people from so many walks of life orbited around him, even after he was convicted in 2008 of soliciting a minor for prostitution. What has come into clear view is the infrastructure of Epstein's power. And maybe through that, the infrastructure of modern power and elite networks more generally. Anand Giridharadas is a journalist who has written for the New York.
I mean, that's all stuff we want to hear so far, right? Mule, you know this guy, right? Is this guy cool or cringe?
Times, The New Yorker, and many other outlets. He publishes the great newsletter The Ink and is the author of, among other books, Winners Take All, The Elite Charade of Changing the World, which he published in 2018, and the forthcoming Man in the Mirror, Hope, Struggle, and Belonging in an American City. I often think of Anand's work as a kind of sociology of American elites and power. And that's been the perspective he's brought to his coverage of these files. And I think it is revelatory and worth hearing. As always, my email, EzraKleinShow@nytimes.com.
Azul Omnipresence says, came in with Madeline, sorry for the late follow, on the phone hollering with my mom, because rent went up again. That's nothing you need to apologize for. Welcome to the stream, it's lovely to have you here.
Anand Giridharadas, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, there have now been literally...
I don't trust Anand Giridharadas' quiff, but I don't know what his politics are yet.
millions of pages of Epstein files released. There are possible...
Middle-earth Marxist says he's a Davos tut-tutter, if I recall correctly. That's... that is exactly the kind of person that I would imagine Ezra Klein would think was like really left and really radical and really good for critiquing the elites. So, okay, perfect. Absolutely ideal.
Millions more that we have not seen, so we don't know everything. There are redactions that we don't yet understand. But when you try to step back from what we have seen,
it is Captain Pike's hair. That's exactly what it is.
That emerges.
You know, there's that proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. I think we've learned that it takes a very powerful network to abuse so many children. And so we're getting a glimpse of an absolutely barbaric pedophilia scandal at the heart of Jeffrey Epstein.
That's one I'll say as well, actually. Like, coming from the perspective of researching conspiracies and misinformation, something we, like, quite often end up saying is, like, it's unlikely that, for example, the whole CIA was in on assassinating JFK or MLK or something, right? Because that's a lot of people, and that many people would actually be quite bad at keeping secrets. And Epstein, it's almost like the inverse thing, where like the thing he was doing necessarily involves a lot of people, and like the pretense that the people who we can kind of see had an involvement of sorts weren't involved is just kind of loopy.
Epstein's life and intimate circles, but also around that, what I would think about as many concentric circles of networks, connections, friends, what Congressman Ro Khanna calls an Epstein class, one could say, that made that possible, that made what he did possible. And we're getting a glimpse, I would say, of how our world, how our country is run. And it isn't pretty.
The most striking thing about the files is the range of Jeffrey Epstein's elite network. I mean, you have someone here who is intimate with not just, at different times, Steve Bannon and Donald Trump, but Emirati businessmen, Elon Musk, Noam Chomsky, and Peter Thiel at the same time. There's no...
I'm only pausing now to say they're doing okay so far. Like not great, but just like for Ezra, pretty good.
This is ideologies. It crosses industries. It crosses professions. It is an extraordinary range of contacts of Republicans and Democrats, globalists and anti-globalists. How is this one guy
according to
at
the Epstein file
center of so many other kinds of people?
This is the great mystery, you know, and I think because we live in such a partisan and tribal age, when these things started to come out, you had a lot of us doing what we normally do in this era, which is looking for revelations that would help our team and hurt the other team. And there were a lot of people looking for the Trump connection who...
Our team is the working class. All implications in the Epstein files hurt the other team from us because they're all rich, powerful people. And it doesn't matter which fucking political party they are loosely affiliated with or president of or anything. Like, it's just, they're just the enemy. Okay.
Don't like Trump. And there was people on the Republican and MAGA side trying to find which Democrats were implicated. But that's such a facile way of looking at what we ended up getting and what we've ended up getting, which is, as you say, a coast-to-coast, industry to industry, right to left, as far left as you can go, as far right as you can go, different professions, different ways of moving through the world, some famous, some obscure. And as I wrote in the New York Times piece that I wrote in November, this diversity masked a deeper solidarity. Because even if these people were on cable, you're sitting at home, you're watching cable at the end of the day, and you're seeing these two talking heads fight. But that's for you. That's the spectacle for you at home to keep you entertained. What they're actually doing is revealed in these files, which is hanging out, breaking bread, colluding, sharing information, giving each other tips on deals, giving each other PR advice, making introductions to each other. You have these moments in the files where Jeffrey Epstein is asking Steve Bannon for help getting, I think it was Brad Karp, into the Augusta National Golf Club. And Steve Bannon, talks about basically how hard it is. He's going to help. He's going to maybe see if he can do some looking around. But he's kind of explaining to Epstein how hard it might be to get Brad Karp into this club.
What?
Okay, Hummus Guzzler says, I've never really understood that many people can't keep a secret argument because, like, that many people do keep a bunch of secrets all the time. That's what a security clearance is for. A security clearance is actually very specifically for keeping the number of people who know a secret down. Like, it's the exact opposite thing. Like, having security clearances is for keeping the more sensitive information more secret and known by fewer people. Like, the argument is on the face of it pretty solid, right? That just, like, there actually just can't be many people involved in, like, some kind of particular... It's like, it's an issue of size of operation as much as anything else. Like, when people have been talking recently about, like, did Epstein eat people? I'm still holding out on this one because I want to, like, not just give in to sensationalist stuff here, but, like, yes, Hummus Guzzler is a really good username. I also, like, think that some of the implications of, like, the number of people who would have had to have been trafficked and who would have had to have been killed, and then there were people, and then there would have been a significant number of people dead, and then, like, we'll have to uncover a secret operation of a very, very considerable size if some of the accusations to do with Epstein eating people turned out to be true. Like, the way that some of it has been constructed. Yeah.
Why would Steve Bannon have access to the Augusta National Golf Club that Brad Karp, I don't know if at this point the chairman of the Paul Weiss firm, but an absolute scion of...
Apple Chips, the video game. Welcome to the stream. Slop me up, slop mama. Okay. Mule says, nah, he was scranning heads. Emotionally, I already feel like it's true, and as someone who does some amount of misinformation work, I am trying to be responsible here and say I have seen nothing that conclusively says to me, yes, definitely there's an undercover operation being alluded to. There's just some stuff that, like, is really hard to explain any other way.
The establishment. I mean, as a question of just where power is.
Right.
In a lot of these emails, it doesn't lie where you'd expect.
Well, I think the Augusta National Club is not a normal part of the establishment. It's in the Deep South, and it is famously, didn't allow black members, didn't allow Jewish members. And so when you're dealing with, like, a club with kind of a white nationalist history, you go to Steve Bannon for a little help to get in. You got to know who to go to for what. And this is so striking, Ezra. Steve Bannon describes the people who run the Augusta Club to Jeffrey Epstein as crackers. He uses a racist term for white people. The specific kind of demo of white people that Steve Bannon used to get Donald Trump elected. And so in this moment, Steve Bannon, who deplores the quote unquote globalists and people of high finance to term as crack, to Jeffrey Epstein as crackers. He uses a racist term for white people. The specific kind of demo of white people that Steve Bannon.
Okay. What do we like? We're gonna have to hear him out because I don't get what his point is yet, and I want to hear his point first, I guess. But yes, calling white people crackers does not make you a white person like devoid of racism. Or wait a second, did he just call it a racist term?
He uses a racist term.
A racist term for white people. Sorry, I just caught that. Fuck. That's so stupid. I couldn't pause it at first because there's the bigger weird point he's making about Steve Bannon, which we'll have to hear what the fuck that's supposed to be, but he just said that's a racist. It's so dire. Just needed to get that there. Just I'll be holding on to that screenshot for a bit. He uses a racist term for white people. Okay, all right, I'm back in the room. I'm calming down. Weirdo of Oz says, I think his point is that he was upsetting Steve Bannon by saying crackers and perhaps intentionally. No, Bannon describes
as cracker, the Augusta. Steve Bannon describes the people who run the Augusta Club to Jeffrey Epstein as crackers.
Yes, Steve Bannon said it. I guess his point here is that Steve Bannon doesn't love all white people, or his point here is that just because you're a white person who says cracker doesn't mean you've defeated all the racism in you, or something. I'm not sure really what his point is here. I guess let's just carry on and see what he thinks the point here is. This is such a take industry brained thing to bring up. Just look at the language this guy uses. Look at him using this word. It really means something.
He uses a racist term for white people. The specific kind of demo of white people that Steve Bannon used to get Donald Trump elected. And so in this moment, Steve Bannon, who deplores the quote-unquote globalists and people of high finance and this and that, is talking to financier Jeffrey Epstein, referring to white people in Georgia as crackers. None of these people in these networks mean what they say when you hear them in public. They mean what they say when you're not looking, and these emails in some are an extraordinary and rare chance to see what they really think about you, how they really move through the world, what their actual ends and projects are. Maya Angelou is right, when people show you who they are, believe them.
You use the word solidarity a moment ago for this network. But when you look at these communications, there are moments of solidarity, and you wrote, in some ways actually movingly, about, Epstein has a talent for friendship. He has a talent for being of use to people. He becomes an advisor to them. You can't be a great con man without understanding human beings at a very deep level. But there's also a just endless transactionalism, an endless trading of information, money, connections, favor, powers, ultimately women and girls. And that what feels oftentimes like it is attracting them to each other is not always what I would think of as solidarity, like a fellowship, but a what can you do for me? And if you can be the one who finds it for them, that's real power.
And it's
Okay.
different, Neat.
Ezra is talking about the solidarity of the ruling class here. I think we can give Ezra 1 gold star. 1 gold star. This week, Ezra, he can have it on his chart. If he collects 12 of them, we get the well done Ezra from the whole class, okay? He gets 1 gold star. Because this week, he is saying, actually, we're seeing the ruling class operate as a class. You know, he's actually got the take that's the worthwhile take here. Pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay, and Weirdo of Oz says Steve Bannon hates his own audience because they're poor. Yeah, I think that's just like that's not. Yeah, like I agree that's what is Gerardatus is trying to get across. I don't think that's like that very worthwhile as a take.
It's right. So the money people may not need money, although they always want more of it. They often want to seem and feel smart, right? If you have met people in those kinds of worlds, finance people, even if you make a lot of money in it, they're often very, very, very boring people. And I don't say this as slander. They know it. I've had so many conversations with people in this world where there's an insecurity about how boring they are. So they want something else. Then there's a bunch of academics. Academics, I think, really figure in this story in a way that feels surprising. Well, it's a tough era to be an independent thinker, and so the academics want money and access, and Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary, talks about how's life among the lucrative and the louche. He asked Epstein, so he wanted access to a kind of, like a party scene that's not available to him. So everybody had something that they needed, but his gift, I think, if it can be called that, was understanding and mapping that so well.
So I want to go into some of the pieces of this. And another word for what you're talking about is
So
he's a
we're still
broker.
creating.
And I think it's important to always remember Epstein.
Sorry. So we're still, I think, still there. We're creating a sort of exceptionalism of Epstein, and I think that like it's. Very confused about what's going on in chat. Okay. Epstein, as far as we know, Epstein is the only guy so far exposed to be doing this in the ruling elite. If we assume he was the only guy doing this in the ruling elite, and he was their sex trafficker, like their guy, the specific guy for this. Yes, there are differences between his life and his way of operating and doing this shit and the rest of them in the literal sense. But like efforts to single him out too much still let people get away with it way too much, and specifically lets the class get away with it, because I think we really have to be looking here at the system. We have to be looking at the system of the ruling class, of the bourgeois class, and specifically under patriarchal capitalism, them as a fucking pedophilic force. Like this is the production of patriarchal capitalism, and the like his talent was like mapping out that stuff and connecting people together or whatever. It's like they want to be connected. Like they want to be well connected to each other. Like him being like working with several different intelligence agencies is like both an example of that and evidence to the broader phenomenon, because like intelligence agencies are, you know, exactly like people who literally their job is to like know the right people and manipulate and coerce them. And so Epstein, you know, yeah, to some degree is clearly good at that. I don't think that's a wholly false thing to say. I just want to like point out here, like, yeah, exceptionalizing him can easily let off a ton of the ruling class who absolutely just like naturally congregate together to do this kind of shit. Like, this is just like, that's what's happened here. I don't think he is like entirely just like sought out powerful people or whatever. Yeah.
Where he comes from is finance. And what they do in finance is they make markets and they look for market irregularities or inconsistencies. They look for where one side needs to be matched up to another. And I think you have to see money fundamentally at the source of his power. It is how he pays for and pays off women and girls. It's how he impresses contacts, particularly early on. And one thing he understands really well is money as a signal. He's got the largest private house in Manhattan. He's got an island. He's got a jet. So if he's got all that, how can he not be a success? How can he not be brilliant? My colleagues on the news side, they did this amazing piece, I'll put it in show notes, about Epstein's relationship with JP Morgan Chase, which was his bank for a long time when he was coming up.
I'm as surprised as anyone. I guess here I'm kind of yes-anding Ezra more than criticizing. But again, he gets a gold star this week, so it's to be expected. Okay. Let me rewind a second.
Can he not be a success? He's got a jet. So if he's got all that, how can he not be a success? How can he?
Right. He is describing the thoughts of the ruling elite, of the like money touchers, of the politicians, the people who became influenced and influenceable by Epstein because they're like, wow, he's a big success. I'd like to point out the mirror here between this line of logic and the line that Nick Fuentes is using to defend him right now. Nick Fuentes has started saying Epstein is cool. And like the line between those 2 points is that one is a shameless far-right agitator who's trying to find things to say that will like get attention, yes, but also just like get his guys very cynically and like instrumentally just like off the hook to move forward and keep aligning with like far-right Nazi goals. And the other is a guy who thinks that he'll never be witnessed making any of these decisions. And so like the shamelessness and the belief in privacy are like the common factor here within a system of patriarchal capitalism. I can't say this enough, and I really like urge others to be saying this more as well. This is about patriarchal capitalism. That's like the core thing that has always been going on here.
Not be brilliant. My colleagues on the news side, they did this amazing piece, I'll put it in show notes, about Epstein's relationship with JP Morgan Chase, which was his bank for a long time when he was coming up. And particularly with Just Staley, who was very high up at the bank. Tell me a bit about the Epstein-Staley relationship.
It's an extraordinary story of all of these kinds of brokering that he was engaged in occurring in one relationship of two people. So Staley and Epstein cultivate a mutually beneficial relationship between Epstein, the individual financier, and J.P. Morgan, now in its current form, the largest, I think, financial institution in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And again, for folks listening to this at home, it may seem a little strange, like, what does J.P. Morgan need
This is why this piece is
random
so good.
finance man? But it turns out these things are complicated. So there's a moment where Jeffrey Epstein has a lot of money, and that money needs managing, and the managing of that money brings in millions of dollars of fees. So that's kind of the base layer. There's some point at which J.P. Morgan becomes interested, and Jess Staley specifically becomes interested in the idea that J.P. Morgan is not doing enough business with regard to hedge funds. And hedge funds were this kind of growing category. And Jeffrey Epstein seems to have proximity to this ascendant world of hedge funds where a lot more money is moving. And so Jeffrey Epstein can make introductions in that world that then become very valuable.
And he does. So Staley invests in a hedge fund that he's connected to through Epstein, not Staley personally, but through JP Morgan. And it becomes, and Staley says this later, the investment that fundamentally makes his career because it opens that world to JP Morgan and it's considered a brilliant move. Epstein introduces him to Sergey Brin, the founder of Google.
I think this is so interesting, but here's how I explain it. The more powerful you are and the more you rise in these hierarchies, right, the more of a bureaucracy around you there becomes.
Middle-earth Marxist, I know the bit you're referencing. Do you have a link to that? Because that shit cracks me up so much. But I can't remember the name of the guy or find the clip.
Right? You, Ezra Klein, if I'd tried to reach out to you 20 years ago, I could have just probably emailed some Gmail address, right? But now you got a podcast, everything. I got to go through this person. I got to go through this person. So actually, the more important these stratospherically powerful people become, there's publicists, and the publicists have publicists, and there's this person, there's that person. And that's why actually a TED conference or these kinds of worlds are valuable, because Sergey Brin is actually in the bar at night, and some finance guy who wants to meet him, yeah, he's not without status. He could go through the channels, but it's work and it's cumbersome and it's like,
I think I found it.
There are many figures in our society who contribute an enormous amount to our culture, and people who have unconventional personal lives, and yet they seem exempt from criticism. Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
No, let me finish. Jeffrey Epstein. I see it. No one, criticizes him, and yet.
Oh, wait a minute.
That is a double standard.
Jim, hold on. Much has been said about Jeffrey Epstein. Terrible things.
No, Jeff. I'm talking about Jeff Epstein, the New York financier.
Yes, we're talking about the same Jeff Epstein.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I never heard.
Oh, it was a big story in the news. Huge.
No.
Yes, for you to say no one ever
Jeff
said...
Epstein.
Yes.
Jeff Epstein.
Yes, the financier.
With the island.
Yes, he had an island that I've never been to. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, with respect, if there was some news about Jeff Epstein, I would have heard.
No, I don't know what rock you've been under. It was a huge story, and Jeff Epstein I have to tell you, he's gone. He's dead.
What do you mean?
He's dead.
He's dead.
He's dead.
Sorry, nice try. If Jeff Epstein were deceased, I'm pretty sure I would know about it. Now, I admit I've not, probably since the pandemic, I have not talked to him.
That would make sense. He's been dead for a number of years, Jim.
I'll tell you, there's one easy way. Let's call Ghislaine Maxwell.
No, we're not calling Ghislaine Maxwell.
Why not? Okay.
She's in prison. She's imprisoned for crimes she committed with Jeff Epstein.
Ghislaine's in prison.
Yes, stop calling her Ghislaine. How do you know these people? Jim.
Conan.
Jim.
All right.
Jim, listen.
Okay.
Listen
I'm just saying, I'm your friend. You know what? It doesn't matter what you do in your private life.
I don't do anything in my private life.
Okay.
Joe says, I'm impressed he's keeping such a straight face. Yeah, I mean, he's just a wind-up merchant, right? Like, he just... It just must be the kind of bit he loves to do. So funny. So fucking funny. Oh my goodness. Now feels like a good time to say, people, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command tip. I have been streaming for nearly 2.5 hours now, and We are only £35 towards the goal. There's been £35 of donations so far. I would really appreciate if anyone could donate. I am working right now, and I've got a bunch of articles to read after we're done with this podcast bit, and it is actually work. Despite being, funny lady on the rectangle, I am also doing a job. Please help me pay for my rent and bills. There are 60 people watching right now, 64 actually. So if, again, just like if people could donate £2 each right now, we'd hit the goal immediately. We're trying to get to 270 today. Yeah, I've been streaming for 2.5 hours so far. So use command tip, it's !TIP in chat. And if you're a VOD viewer as well watching this later, hello VOD viewers, please use the links down below to send me money to support me to make the streams possible at all. Okay, let's carry on with the podcast, but probably not for too much longer, because I feel like this is... What do we have next? Epstein was a broker of relationships, and then Epstein exploitation of gaps in our culture. That sounds like an interesting section.
You think Sergey Brin is at the bar at night,
I have been with Sergey Brin at the bar.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay, this is an interesting point he's making there about like the private world for the ruling elite being like a thing that they find very useful because they have accrued power and complexity with it.
Absolutely.
you know these worlds in.
Absolutely. I mean,
This is making a lot of sense, by the way, as a how was it put before? Davos Tata?
I was at the bar with him with my friend Esther Perel, who you've always talked to. I've never seen she had just given her talk.
Deinonychus Turbo Laser says, surely the glorious VOD viewers can put us chat plebs to shame. You would think this, but there were actually like very few VOD comments last week. And no, actually people did send some money. It was very sweet, actually. I think I got one Patreon subscription from a regular VOD viewer, and a couple of people like use the donate link as well. But they're not really beating chat this week. VOD viewers are in a precarious position this week, in my opinion, but not given chat's current performance.
I have never seen so many rich people flock.
I'm saying, chat, it's winnable. It's winnable. I do have favorites, actually, and my favoritism can be swayed.
To one person for personal consultations. We were just having a drink and a thing. Everybody was on Esther. All these guys were on Esther. Help me with this situation. It was an incredible thing
Because
to watch.
what they really need, what they don't have, are people they can trust with personal problems. And they probably have a lot of personal problems at that level.
Correct. That was actually a really revealing moment to me. I mean, they can contact anyone they want. They can fill out whatever, they have people. But actually, I think this notion that it's lonely at the top, there's truth in it. And this is really worth understanding as a cultural figure that Epstein was. He exploited certain gaps in our culture now. He was not only grooming teenage girls, he was grooming all of these people, right? This was all grooming. And it was a continuum of grooming, from light consensual grooming of bankers all the way to the most depraved and criminal grooming of teenage girls. But the behaviors of pulling people in, understanding, even care and feeding. Virginia Giuffre writes about how he did that to her in her incredible book, Nobody's Girl. But he does it with very powerful people who tell him when he's landing. And he, unlike many people in American culture today, will say,
Yeah, this is more of the stuff that I'm a little bit worried about with, like, exceptionalizing Jeffrey Epstein. Like, it's very obvious the guy was an abusive creep, and like, take it as read that he was manipulative and was grooming a whole ton of people. And I do think it's probably true to say that he was grooming the, like, rich acquaintances that he had, like, but I think that, like, there just has to be, I don't want him to just be, like, the one single, like, guy, like, as tribute, like, just, like, given away, like, ritually to like absolve the ruling class of stuff when actually like their connections to him speak to their complete lack of moral character because they're depraved lunatics. Like they are a parasitic organ on the human species, and like it is morally good to seek further shaming of them.
You had food. I can get this made for you. Do you like that kind of food? What kind of food? Are you sure? What time you get here? Right? A lot of people at that level.
Pathogen 7 says, if you're a grown-ass wealthy adult and you go along with Epstein's bullshit, is that grooming? That's an interesting question. I don't know how much I care to like get into a fine taxonomy of what does and doesn't count as grooming here on the stream, like for the sakes of this discussion. I feel like things get a little bit morbid in doing that. But I do take your point that like someone in that situation is like a lot more, just like infinitely more able to advocate for themselves and have agency and free themselves of Epstein than the victims of the trafficking.
Are not worried about people on that kind of individual level. And so there's this strange...
Zyros says he was only unique in the huge amount of the harm he did in a specific way, not unique in what he did or how he achieved it. Yes, which generally tends to be the case in just like people broadly. Like they're like Epstein. Here's a pretty uncontroversial take. Epstein's not possible at all without an Epstein-like culture around Epstein that involves many, many, many people. And whether that's literally like a trafficking operation or it's just people with similar attitudes to him and he's the only one with his staff, with his partners doing trafficking, it's still cultural. There has to be like the
thing where he's running this giant criminal ring and he's exploiting and abusing people, and he's also attending to human beings at the kind of micro level that I think a lot of those powerful people weirdly are not being attended to.
The connections are doing two things at once for Epstein. One is he's able to use them transactionally. They make being in relationship with him profitable for other people, but they also cross-subsidize him in credibility.
Yeah.
Epstein is taking out cash.
I like cross-subsidize him in credibility.
At a rhythm and in amounts that...
Middle-earth Marxist says, also his best friend for decades is the president. Yeah. I think, like, one thing that the Chapo guys said, and I keep up to date with what they're saying because they're, the most popular leftist podcast, but I find them very exasperating, and I found their weird thing with their fan subreddit recently very, very funny. I don't know if people know about this. Just, like, really stupid move from them. But something pretty fair, one of them said was, like, it seems from the files like Trump and Epstein fell out because Trump basically decided, I want to do the whole operation that Epstein is doing. Like there's already some coverage of this, right? Like something to do with like Trump trying to poach, or I think the word used was steal. I don't know exactly. It's presumably like offering someone a job, but like when it's a job within like a world of sex trafficking, it's a little bit... Anyway, their falling out was based on Trump wanting to get someone who was being trafficked by Epstein to work at Mar-a-Lago instead. And their take on Chapo was like, I think that Trump was just trying to like set up his own version of Little St. James. And I think that's like absolutely spot on. And also like is worth saying in this discussion because it's like my beloved DJ Mule on stream recently looked dead in the camera and said, I'm telling you right now, there is another Epstein Island. And I think he was incredibly, incredibly accurate with that take. And I just think like that's something that we have to brace ourselves for, or I don't know, it helps us to engage with a systemic analysis, I think, to see that like Epstein was produced by the currents of culture in our world, and like it's probably produced more people doing the same shit.
Should fly.
Anyway, this episode generally they're making pretty good takes, but I find I find his general manner like quite off-putting, and I'm gonna move on from this shortly.
Flag investigations, and so there ultimately are a series of internal fights at J.P. Morgan about whether or not to keep him.
J.P. Morgan flagged over $1 billion in suspicious transactions.
And then he is eventually convicted for paying for sex with a minor. And there are more fights about whether or not to keep him. And J.P. Morgan keeps working with him. And there's this amazing quote from Justin Nelson, Epstein's personal banker. He prepares a memo. I'm quoting here from the Times piece.
I don't like the way that people kind of, they stumble around the language with Epstein's first conviction, and it's like, if they're talking about what charge he was actually given, I see that as fair, because it's like the technicalities of what he was charged with, rather than being charged with rape or being charged with child sexual abuse, he was charged with soliciting a minor for prostitution. Pointing out that is important, I think, to point out the failure of the legal system there. But the important... One second. What a loser. Okay. Those are staying on screen after deleting them from the thing? That's useless. Why does chat box work like that? Alright, well... what are we talking about?
Morgan keeps working with him, and there's this amazing quote from Justin Nelson, Epstein's personal banker. Sex with a minor?
Yes, quibbling over the terminology. I am bothered by it, because like when people say he was paying for sex with a minor and they're referring to the charge that he received to highlight the failure of the criminal justice system, that's like a pretty good thing to point out, I think. It matters that they like the Onion documentary, they refer to it as he had the charge walked down to penis goofing, and it's like whenever like that's what I think of whenever it's like about what charge he actually received. But but people don't need to be like fumbling around like what it was he did there. A ton of pedophiles give some kind of compensatory reward or bribe or whatever to children that they abuse. Like it's still just child sex abuse. It's still just rape. Like it's not complicated in with something to do with sex work in some way or whatever. It's just, that was the thing I was saying about it. I think we're going to switch on to some of these articles. So it's going to be off of the topic of Epstein finally, thank goodness, after 2.5 hours of this. Very sorry, everyone. It's just consuming everything in the news right now. We're going to read an Atlantic article, which is So Thirsty for Blood. How thirsty for blood is it, you ask? Let me tell you. It's so thirsty for blood that it's called Why the US Hasn't Yet Struck Iran. Just the obvious thing. The obvious thing, I guess, that the US would do. So why haven't they? That's so weird. That's so crazy that they haven't done that yet. Why haven't they done that? That's crazy. If you're enjoying the stream, please do pay for the stream. Apparently, as well as needing to pay my rent and bills, I have to deal with Nazi incel losers showing up in my chat. I'm doing a job right now, and I'd like to get paid for doing it, please. So please use command tip and send me some money. I've said a ton of times now how little a donation can matter a lot. So we're going to read this article now. Why the US hasn't yet struck Iran. Diplomacy meets the art of the deal. So, 2 ways you can read the title and subtitle here. One, so thirsty for blood, hawkish warmongering, or bigging up Trump for being really smart and smooth with his wheelings and dealings. And neither of those are good. Both of those suck, actually. Lorcan says, American press spend 1 day without screaming about murdering brown people challenge. Difficulty, impossible. Yes, they simply need for America to use all of the most unthinkable weaponry that would have been literally impossible to imagine to someone a few hundred years ago. Just like shit that would have made it into a myth. They need it. They need for incredible new innovations in relentless cruelty and destruction to be used against brown people. It's absolutely essential, and it's their only therapeutic outlet. Late last month, President Trump took to social media to issue a not at all veiled threat to the theocratic rulers of Iran, come to the negotiating table and agree to no nuclear weapons or risk the same type of swift and violent response that plucked Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife from Caracas in the middle of the night. Time is running out. It is truly of the essence. 2 weeks later, it suddenly isn't. There is now no rush to make a deal, Trump said on Friday while speaking to reporters. Usually threats of war come after talks fail, not before they've even started. But this time, the United States and Iran appear to have reset the clock just as the administration was at its most bellicose. So what happened? The Trump administration had been considering its military options, which ranged from targeting leaders to hitting Iran's nuclear program. But officials discovered that the US could not conduct a major offensive as quickly as they had hoped, without real risks to American forces. Support from allies and regional... could not conduct a major offensive as quickly as they had hoped without real risks to American forces. Support from allies and regional stability, 2 US officials told us. That seems like a really weird way to say that. Like, I understand they can't do it without regional support, without regional stability, and without support from allies. But the without risks to Americans, without risks to American forces is a different kind of without. Like, they can't do it without these things they need to do it, and without those things there will be real risks to American forces. I feel like is the whatever. Even though Trump has boasted about a, quote, massive armada sprinting toward Iran, the US does not have enough ships and planes in the region to conduct weeks of strikes, the officials said. It also does not have clear targets. The White House has yet to outline to military commanders what it would want to achieve through strikes, the officials said, suggesting that the use of force is not imminent. Mule says, yeah, they're just scared of getting fucking pwned, Lamau. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think broadly it does just all look like a bunch of complete, like, macho bluster that's, like, absolutely doing nothing. Where are we? Instead, the US held direct talks with Iran over the weekend for the first time since last year. Admiral Brad Cooper, the top commander for Central Command, which is responsible for operations in the Middle East, was among the American officials present for the negotiations in Oman. The discussions allowed Iran to gauge US interest in reaching a deal, a spokesperson for the country's foreign ministry said. The Trump administration publicly expressed optimism. But one official told us that the United States walked away with questions about whether Iran was serious about negotiations or simply pursuing this course to buy additional time. What do you do with that? like, what do you do with that as a claim? Like, Iran has been seeking like a stable and chill coexistence with Western powers for a very long time, and has been repeatedly like they're currently under sanctions that like caused 40% inflation at the end of last year, like with the trigger of those protests. Like, Iran absolutely wants a deal here. Like, what are you supposed to say? Okay. Beyond a reprieve from military action, Iran wants a relief from economic sanctions, but without constraints on its regional militias and giving up its right to enrich uranium and its arsenal of ballistic missiles. Trump wants to eliminate any future potential for an Iranian nuclear facility that he said was obliterated during strikes in June, but that could still be revived. So they're lying about a bunch of shit here. Like, like, not lying per se as like misrepresenting the exact things they're saying, but just like, this is at its core deeply dishonest. Because if you say like, okay, Iran wants relief from economic sanctions, yes, true. It wants to do that without constraints on regional militias and giving up on its right to enrich uranium and its arsenal of ballistic missiles, yes, true. But the sanctions were placed on it because it was working on enriching uranium, because it was attacked by the US and Israel, because it attacked Israel because Israel was doing a genocide as recognized by the UN. It was taking legal military action against a nation committing war crimes. And the EU has sent it into a massive economic shock by refusing to buy any of its oil. And that was to do with nuclear enrichment. And now they're saying constraints on its militias and giving up the right to enrich uranium and its arsenal of ballistic missiles. And those things weren't actually in the discussion before. So, like, do we... This is like... There's a way that imperialism gets obfuscated, and it happens quite often, and I think that it's like just this fast-talking confidence man approach where like writers will just state as obvious fact that these sanctions are in place. What are the sanctions there for? Well, you know, we want Iran to not arm any militias in the region anymore, right? So like, if we're to believe Western claims about this, that's Hezbollah, that's the Houthis, that's Hamas, and more, and like generally groups who've been opposing the genocide that like international law says we're all supposed to oppose, but the white supremacist imperialist project obviously doesn't want to. And getting rid of its ballistic missiles, like, is any other country like meant to be getting rid of its ballistic missiles? Like, just it, like, in terms of, not in terms of what I think is moral, because like, you know, I'd like a world where everyone can miraculously disarm. I'd like a world with, you know, no war ever again. But like, in terms of what people are demanding of any other country, are they saying that any other country shouldn't have ballistic missiles? Like, this is all of these are imperialist assumptions and imperialist requirements being placed onto Iran in the framework of this article, and all of them are being stated without interrogation and without any kind of justification or explanation even. And it's just this, confidence man approach to imperialism I see all over the place in liberal slop pieces, where we just say this as self-explanatory. This is crazy to me. Trump wants to eliminate any future potential for an Iranian nuclear facility, which is like its own thing there. Like, why should that be treated as a reasonable request? Like, that's to do entirely with like Iran's power supply. Like, if people don't know this, the type of uranium that you need for power supply and the type of uranium that you need for a bomb are not the same. You can have the power generation kind without the bomb kind, and like, they have done that for a long time now, and have been held back by Western pressures from developing nuclear weapons and said, fuck it, we're just going to, after they got bombed. Like, a lot of people recently have spent time defending the regime in Iran, and like, I don't see any particular need to in the case of the recent protests, but in the surrounding context, like, they were defending a people from complete extermination by a white supremacist fascist aggressor, and got bombed and said, fuck it, like, we're just gonna arm then, so you can't just keep on like blowing up our shit with like no fear of serious repercussions. You know, the same logic that has kept North Korea from being bulldozed by Western powers. And now they're facing these sanctions. Like, all of that is incredibly relevant. The biggest unknown looming over the talks is how much patience the president has for negotiating before turning to strikes. Trump said on Tuesday that the US will, quote, have to do something very tough if a deal is not reached soon. Trump's latest threats against Iran began last month near the height of protests inside the country, when it appeared the regime could fall and US military strikes could finish it off. Since then, the Iranian government has cracked down on protesters, killing thousands and arresting political figures who have promoted reforms. The country is the weakest it has been in decades. Its economy is in a downward spiral, and its proxies, particularly in Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria, are stretched thin, making asserting power across the region more difficult. Describing anyone in Gaza as an Iranian proxy, anyone who is inside the open-air prison, the world's largest open-air prison, getting smaller all the time, that the Israelis keep, the land that they stole, the houses that they steal, the people that they torture, they rape, they murder, the place where they have drones play the sounds of screaming babies because it will lure people out of their houses so they can get shot by Israeli snipers, that place. If you're describing anyone there, even if they have the strongest possible relationship to Iran and Iran has put weapons in their hands, describing them as an Iranian proxy, you should be ashamed of yourself for the rest of your life. You should be generally shunned. Like, that is so deeply evil. Like, that is such a deeply evil thing to do. Jenny Azar, thank you for the £1.50 donation. Take this demon magic and spend it on little treats. I will spend it on little treats. Thank you very much. But just because a regime is fragile politically doesn't mean it is weak militarily. Sorry, I just need to, again on this. Just like, the genocide in Gaza made it really pronounced. But like, I keep saying, I had written a script 2 years ago, just before my hiatus, about liberal slop, about a liberal slop article I'd read. It was about the Foom scroller, if anyone remembers the Foom scroller. And I was talking about how I said in the final line, liberal reality and ours is just going to get further and further apart. And here are people, here's people saying in the Atlantic, Iran's proxies in Gaza. We have all seen 2 years of the most unimaginably evil shit. Recently it came out that Israel used thermobaric weapons and vaporized nearly 3,000 Palestinians. Vaporized. There are no remains from their bodies at all. There's like a 50-foot crater for one of these things. It gets to like 3,500 degrees C in this area, and they were completely vaporized. That itself is a war crime because of the defilement and destruction of someone's remains. Like, there isn't a justification for a weapon like that to exist, and Israel used it inside of an area that it blockaded and trapped people in. Like, there are things I won't describe on stream that I've read about the ways that people have been treated by IDF fascists while in detention. Just so impossibly repulsive. And to describe anyone who has been given weapons or support inside of Gaza by Iran as an Iranian proxy, because you're incapable of seeing Iran as taking moral action in supporting the liberation of Palestine. Like, that's unforgivably evil. Like, that's so, like, chillingly imperialist. Just because a regime is fragile politically doesn't mean it is weak militarily. A strike against Iran would be a daunting, complex operation for the US military, defense officials told us. The brutality with which the Iranian government quashed protests suggests that it is not in immediate danger of falling, and the nation's security apparatus, notably its Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, did not defect or fracture during the uprisings. The country has long-range ballistic missiles that can reach every corner of the Middle East, and hundreds. I'd love for someone writing in an English language publication, again founded by people with like triple-barreled surnames, to define where precisely the corners of the Middle East are. You know, the middle of the East. Every corner of the Middle East, and hundreds of cruise missiles and drones that could easily strike countries in the Gulf. These assets remain functional after the US bombed the Fordo nuclear site and Israel damaged air defenses over the summer. Chat, do we see how there was no relationship there? Like, do we see that? Like, the country has missiles. Those assets are functional after the US bombed a nuclear power plant. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like I feel like I'm having some kind of episode here. Like, that's completely not, like, it has all these missiles. Last year the US bombed its nuclear plant. It still has the missiles. What meaning are you actually supposed to be able to glean from those two sentences next to each other? An operation aimed at regime change or the weakening of Iran's nuclear program would be, quote, highly complex because of Iran's capabilities, one official told us. Iran would respond, the official said, potentially striking US forces and allies. The operation would also be difficult to sustain. The, quote, armada that Trump said is moving with great power, enthusiasm, and purpose is insufficient to mount a major, weeks-long offensive, the officials told us, and does not include the needed air defenses. The United States has enough military assets in the region to conduct a narrow mission over several days, one that could, for instance, involve targeted strikes on key Iranian leaders or military assets. The Pentagon referred questions about the need for more military firepower in the region to the White House. The White House reiterated Trump's view that the Iranian regime must abandon its nuclear program and make a deal. So again, the claim or the request from Trump and the White House is about the nuclear program, which is about nuclear weapons. I don't know. Are they even talking about the power plant? Maybe they're also talking about the ballistic missiles and stuff, but like this appears to be the Atlantic's demands in the negotiation, not America's. The US strikes against Iran over the summer, a more limited operation than what Trump is now signaling, originated from 2 aircraft carriers in the region. A larger offensive would require at least two carriers that could bring in enough planes to, for example, strike many of Iran's ballistic missile launches. Only one carrier strike group, the USS Abraham Lincoln, is currently in the region. On Tuesday, Trump told Axios that he was considering deploying a second carrier. Doing so would require one of the Navy's existing carrier crews to cut their preparation or rest time. Getting the carrier there, the USS George H.W. Bush, is next in line. Send Bush in there. Go on. Would take at least 2 weeks. If Iran's ultimate goal is to reserve its regime, compromises on its nuclear program and regional proxies will be needed, defense officials told us. Regional proxies. I'm just... God fucking damn. Trump met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for more than 2 hours yesterday. Netanyahu has been clear that he worries that any negotiation will give Iran too much leeway. This man is a genocidal war criminal. This man is a genocidal war criminal as understood by the majority of people on the planet. This man is a genocidal war criminal as agreed by the UN meeting with a fucking pedophile. I'm sorry, this is too much. This is like... Oh, Christ almighty. Something I'll say about what this article is doing, since that's the question we keep on coming back to on Liberal Slot, is like normalizing. Just always perpetually, continuously normalizing, and that's what all of these do all the time. This is just trying to normalize the idea of these people as in any way reasonable actors operating on any kind of moral footing whatsoever. But it's just fascist. Like, we are... The Western imperialist project is so morally bankrupt at this point that people making like sensible geopolitics, rules-based order arguments in favor of any Western of like American power and its connected vassal states is speaking fascist language. Like they're calling like talking about Iranian proxies in Gaza, like they're speaking in a fascist language and a fascist logic. That's how bad our ruling class has gotten. That's how morally bankrupt our states have become. Quote, there was nothing definitive reached other than I insisted that negotiations with Iran continue to see whether or not a deal can be consummated, Trump posted on Truth Social after the meeting with Netanyahu. Israel would likely support the US in targeting Iran, officials told us. Yeah, no shit, dickhead. But the rest of the region is eager to avoid hostilities. Officials from Saudi Arabia and the UAE, neither of which is at all sympathetic to Iran, told administration officials they do not want to be involved in and would not support a regional conflict. According to Arab and US officials, countries hosting US military bases, specifically Kuwait, Qatar, and Bahrain, are particularly vulnerable because Iran warned that it could retaliate against those bases. Maybe they should get rid of their American military bases. That's a cool idea. Any military action could shut down the Strait of Hormuz, a transit point for roughly 20% of the world's oil exports. Some countries fear that military action could rattle investors' confidence in a region that relies heavily on direct foreign investment. Gulf allies also fear catastrophic outcomes, such as radiation exposure resulting from strikes on nuclear facilities or cyber attacks on critical infrastructure. Iran's opposition, meanwhile, is disorganized and has little common vision for the country's future beyond a desire to get rid of the clerics. Without regional support, the United States risks entering into a war without a coalition that would reinforce its military might. But there's also a risk in continuing to delay. Vali Nasser, a professor of international affairs in Middle East Studies at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, told us that by putting military action on the table and then not seeing it through, quote, Trump has instead alerted Iran of potential war and given them time to prepare. Every day that US forces are in the region without acting, they give Iran more of a chance to get ready. Open, explicit, bloodthirsty warmongering. Like, God fucking damn. Like, this is evil. This is completely fucking evil. Absolutely fuck that. Middle-earth Marxist says, sinking the George H.W. Bush would be the most narratively satisfying arc in this cursed timeline. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I still like America earnestly tries to go to war with somewhere in South America, and all of South America puts an end to the United States. I think that's my like fan fiction geopolitics story there. Okay. Chat, I've been streaming for 3 hours now. I have other articles I had lined up to read, but I'm not sure if I'm going to, because, like, to be honest, I've been going for a while without people donating all that much. I'm going to chat about this article. Right. we know what this article was trying to do. It's warmongering, bloodthirsty, drum-beating hawk stuff. They want war with Iran. I think it would be more useful for us to talk about how they do this, what kind of tactics and mechanisms they have been deploying in this article to get at what they're doing. I saw someone in chat saying about them being simultaneously strong and weak. That was very striking. That was definitely present there. As I highlighted, like talking about their proxies in different places rather than like liberation groups that Iran has given support and weapons to. Like, that's it's okay if the language is going to be consistent. Like, if we're going to call groups that other countries have given financial and military equipment support to their proxies, maybe. But yeah, I think the general air of suspicion that Iran is treated with throughout this article is like quite Walada says USA proxies like BP. Powerful stuff. Yeah, Iran is treated with like an implicit suspicion in the article, like it's about to do some really sinister shit. Like I think it was when Iran was getting bombed last summer, the nuclear stuff really shifted my perspective quite a lot on Iran quite quickly. Because again, like they had been intervening in opposition to Israel's genocide in Gaza. And then like the US attacked their nuclear power plant. And like the demands now, like the shifting goalposts, I think is very striking. Like there appears to be a kind of lingering, half-expressed desire in this article for Iran to not have nuclear power even, which like was a thing that has already been agreed upon and repeatedly like verified and even like regulated by like international bodies. What's it called? The IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Association, is supposed to be able to come into countries and inspect their nuclear power plants. And Iran lets the IAEA do that, and Israel doesn't. because of the shape of white supremacist power in the world. Like, obviously, just like they don't have to. They can just be like, it's all good, bro. Even though it's probably not. Like, they do a bunch of shady and cut corners shit all the time in Israel, as well as being fascists. Iran played by the rules incredibly closely this entire time, and is just having like, has had so much shit piled onto it before the protests happened. And I think that was also like a bit of a brain-breaking thing for some people, was like the protests happened and then discussion of anything that is wrong that the Iranian government has done became really polarizing, because for some it was a continuation of the same. Apple Chips the video game says, and Iran knows the IAEA is infiltrated by US intelligence. Yeah, and they let them do it. Like, yeah, like they're such incredibly high levels of playing ball, just like so open to this. Yeah, like I think that for some people, for the people who are already shoveling shit on Iran, the protests were an opportunity to shovel more shit on Iran. And then for the people who'd seen the very obvious like shit shoveling, it was like, fuck off, like stop doing this, like, and that's a completely valid emotional response. Mule says, the way I see it, US knows even with Israel it can't beat Iran. It can't get support from EU after Greenland. Israel is big mad, so they're desperately trying to get the US to demand Iran stop its ballistic missile program and stop funding Hezbollah, Houthis, and Hamas, so it can attack Iran on its own. Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid take. Like, yeah, the US the US may have spent all of its like capacity to invade with a coalition. Like, I think that, like, compared to the Iraq War, especially, where like so many countries were making sure to be in on it just to be on America's good side. Like, so many countries were sending people in just to be like, yes, we have taken part in what is morally good, which is avenging 9/11. Compared to that, especially, like, yeah, as you say, like, right after Greenland as well, like, you can't threaten to invade the EU and then expect the EU to, like, back you up militarily in doing imperialism. Like, the EU will absolutely carry on doing its own imperialism. It is Europe. The imperialism is what it likes to eat. But, like, it's not going to help America anymore. Or at least not for the time being. There's an element of posturing that Israel is trying to convey with its own populace at the moment as well. We can definitely take on Iran, but we just need the US to back us up is the big narrative. That's interesting. I wonder how much they believe that. Like, I wonder if the people in charge in Israel believe that, like, with just America backing them up, they'll be okay. Because I think at this point, some countries will probably come to Iran's aid. Like, it would be entirely unsurprising if Russia does. I wouldn't be massively surprised if China did. And yeah, America and Israel together, like, especially, like, as they were saying in this article, like, some regional powers like the UAE and Saudi Arabia are not happy with the way that Iran is being treated and won't join in on aggression against it. Yeah. Lorcan says, a lot of so-called rogue nations that followed strict rules imposed on them by the US/UN/NATO only to see the deal change, like they've been negotiating with Darth Vader the whole time. Yeah. There's like... People keep on saying this. I'll reiterate it. Trump follows the trajectory of American presidents. Like, he is a big leap, and he's across a kind of set of crucial thresholds, but he follows the same trajectory, and in many ways isn't even exceptional. And, like, the glazing Trump to Trump's knife in your back pipeline is like an inch long, but the same is true of, like, the American empire itself. Like... Okay, chat, I think I'm going to wrap it up for the night because I've been streaming for 3 hours so far, and I'm quite sleepy. And I think if people aren't around helping me reach the dono goal, I'm going to wrap it up there for now. I hope everyone has a good night. Please come by on Sunday to see Red Planet. It's at Red Planet Live on Twitch. Make sure that you follow twitch.tv/redplanetlive. We will be airing a pre-recorded interview I've done with someone who is doing community firearms training and ICE response training and organizing in a US state. We'll be covering the news as always. It'll be me, Mule, and Tim as always. And yeah, you should make sure to be there. Also, next week, I believe I will be doing a film screening on Friday evening, so I will do the stream on Saturday instead. So please come by next week here on Saturday. Please come by on Red Planet Live on... oh, my goodness. Zyros tipped just right now. £5. Thank you very much, Zyros. £1.50 or $2, chat. You can do it. Thank you for the stream, Sophie. Have a lovely night. And the purple heart. Thank you so much. That's really sweet of you. Yes, if anyone does want to get in a last-minute donation, I still would appreciate it, but I am now wrapping up. What else do we need to say? Check out my Patreon. I'm going to have new stuff coming out. I'm currently writing a new Monster Man episode. I have a thing that's a little bit liberal slop-oriented, actually. It'll be coming up after that. I have a just for patrons astrophotography video in the works, but I won't be able to finish it until I get some more clear skies, and it's rained every day in Britain so far. Yeah, and VOD viewers also. Hello again once more, VOD viewers, and goodbye, VOD viewers. Check out the links in the description, and please support me financially. Everyone do your favorite animal noises in chat, and then we're going to head off. Should I try and raid someone, maybe? Yes, I'm going to try and raid someone. Who is about? Does anyone have suggestions for someone to raid? I could raid Lucky Bun. Alright, we're going to raid Lucky Bun. Everyone do your favorite animal noises in chat. Maybe even carry them through to Lucky Bun. Okay, I've got a Rower in stream from Nuke Waste. Got Zyro's Bye Meow. Deinonychus Turbo Laser says weasel sounds, which is unexpected because I was expecting some Deinonychus sounds. Anyway, we're going to raid Lucky Bun. And we're all going to have a lovely weekend. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.